There it is. Live. Day 4. Blue Talks. Amplify your message with myself, Coach Scotty Fitt, and Laura Lake, serving for Corey Poirier, the master behind the Business Life and the Universe Talks, right? Superstar, awesome guy.
I'm not up higher right now.
That's okay. You're still pointing in the right direction. It's beautiful. The virtual point to the virtual logo. Well, I'm super excited. We've got another great 4 guests. We've got one in the wings right now, ready to go. And it's going to be another fantastic day. Yesterday, we had some really amazing guests, and what a variety. Really, really enjoyable stuff. So I'm looking forward to see what today gives us and unpacks. So without any further adoing, let's bring Abby on. Good morning.
Hi.
Good morning.
Nice to see you again.
Yeah, nice to see you both.
It's fun. Sometimes I've never met the guests before. I know nothing about them, and it's kind of fun surprise. And then sometimes I'm like, oh, we've met before in Corey's stuff. So that's awesome. Awesome. So good morning. So Abby, tell us a bit about yourself. Where are you from? Where are you at right now? Like I'm on the West Coast. Laura's on the East Coast. We kind of got Canada in a big hug. Where are you at?
Well, first of all, full disclosure, I'm at the tail end of a horrific flu. So I didn't want to cancel today. So I'm here. So I'll do my best. But yeah, I'm definitely not 100% myself right now. But I
don't think we are either.
Yeah. Yeah, it was just some nasty bug running through our whole household. So but I'm here in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada.
Yep. That's awesome. Cool. And you know, it's Canada. There's less sunlight. We're indoors more. It's colder. The whole cold flu thing, it's just doing its thing.
Exactly. It's
full normal.
It's part of Canadian life.
It is. I always say it's the immune system's getting an exam. That's
exactly.
It's growing stronger. It's taking a test. Oh, okay, just a minute. Got it. We're figuring it out.
And as we know, no one likes exams or pop quizzes. So
depends on the topic. I have been known to like pop quizzes because I'm like, I love this stuff. But exams is a whole other story. They always fell right around my birthday. So then nobody would come to my birthday party. And I'm like, no.
Oh no. Priorities.
It's funny. We got lots to get into it. Exams to me are the same as races. Like a race just reveals training. An exam just reveals studying. They're not good or bad. True. People that hate exams didn't study.
Exactly.
Right? So, Abby, tell us about yourself. What is it you do to make the world amazing?
Yes, for sure. So I've been nursing for the past almost 16 years now as a profession. I'm moving away from that, phasing out of nursing to pursue my dreams and my passions of public speaking and coaching. I speak and I write on all things recovery and mental health, just stemming from my own personal recovery journey. So this year was 8 years sober for me. And with that has come a whole just intense journey of inner healing, of growth, of overcoming. And I've just, one thing has led to another where it's led me down this path of being able to share my message to others and impact others in that way, because there's no shortage of people out there struggling, with either mental health or addiction. And in some form of it, it doesn't necessarily always have to be drugs and alcohol. For me, it was alcohol. For other people, it could be gambling, it could be shopping, it could be anything, right? And so it's really getting to the root of why we do these things, right? There's always something that there's a void that we're trying to fill up. And as we know, when we try to fill up this void with external things, we're just never going to be satisfied, right? The void needs to be filled from within. And that takes a lot of courage. It takes a lot of growth and willingness to look within at the things that we've been running away from. Because for the majority of us addicts is that we've been running away from facing something that's deeply painful, right? And for me, that's stemming from a childhood of abuse and trauma, and I just wasn't ever equipped to look at it. I wasn't ever equipped to process it. And so obviously as a teen, getting around different people, kind of the wrong association, led me down, going to a house party and everybody was drinking. And then that's when I started drinking. And for me, it wasn't really like the fun part of it. It was more so like the medication part of it, like where it was like for the first time ever, I was numb. I didn't have to think about anything. I didn't have to feel anything, and life was good. You know, I had like courage. I was outgoing, all of that stuff, right? But it just led down a really treacherous path for me for almost 15 years of, you know, just spiral, you know, and you know, just being in very scary situations and circumstances until, you know, it kind of came to a crossroads 8 years ago when my journey began.
And you were
now
quite
I want to know more about that crossroads, if
Mm-hmm.
you don't mind sharing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you were quite young when you first started drinking too.
I was 15. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So 8 years ago, it was the summer of 2014. And, you know, like by that time, you know, on the outside looking in, it seemed everything was amazing. I went to university for nursing. I graduated from nursing when I was, I think, 20, I want to say 22, 23. I was pretty young. And then, you know, I met the love of my life, my partner, who's currently my husband. We've been together for 13 years and married 10 years. So married, I was working in a nursing career. I was, you know, kind of climbing the ranks there. Yeah, it looked like everything was fine, right? But what a lot of people didn't see was that I was very much so like in the throes of addiction at that point in time where, you know, right after work, I'd come home and I would drink basically just to like numb everything and just chasing that feeling of not feeling, you know, like not dealing, right? Because I just didn't even know how to cope. I just didn't know how to deal with any of like life's circumstances, right? And like what we don't really understand until we're kind of out of it is that when we're numbing the bad things, we're also numbing the good things. And so, you know, like you can't just pick and choose, oh, I'm just going to numb this part of my life, because, you know, you're just actually going to end up numbing it both, right? Like both the good and the bad. And, you know, there was a lot of good things going on in my life, but I wasn't really soaking it up, or I wasn't really appreciative of it because I was just so much in the darkness of it all, you know, just so much of it in the constant pursuit of, you know, just the next time I'm just gonna like, it was just like a cycle, right? And so I knew, you know, in my heart of hearts at that point in time that something needed to change. I was getting really tired of living that way. It was very depressing. I was very depressed. It was just very dark. It was very lonely. No one really knew that was happening, right? My husband had concerns, but I hid it really well. Like I was very, very much so functioning. And, you know, he would make comments here and there, like, you know, of concern. And I would just kind of say something to just kind of like wave it away or whatever. But I knew that, you know, there was a serious issue happening, right? And so, yeah. And so that summer, I can remember I went to a party with some friends. It was like a birthday party on the weekend. And we were there. And of course, everybody's like drinking and, you know, it's just normal. And that's the thing with alcohol specifically, is that it's just very societally, very normalized.
Yeah.
You know, like a lot of people binge drink on weekends and no one really bats a lash, right? Like everyone's like, oh, it was a good time. And, you know, like, but for me, I was a blackout drinker where I blacked out every single time I drank. And that should have been the number one kind of a warning for me that it wasn't normal, right? But again, everyone just kind of laughs about it and was like, oh yeah, you know, like everyone kind of got out of hand and stuff. But for some people, like for myself, it didn't just end at the party. It would continue at home, you know, and for the next couple of days type of thing. And so we went to this party and you know, I woke up the next morning and I was just so sick, like just sick. I was like towards the end, my hangovers were like, I was bedridden for a few days because it was just so bad. Like it took me out so bad. Right. And I'm a small person, like I'm 5 feet tall, you know, I was usually like 110 pounds, you know, and I'd be drinking like heavily, right? And so like my body was just in like turmoil the next day, right? And I just remember opening my eyes and I just had this like deep sinking feeling, like, you know, you're playing with fire. Like one of these days, I'm either not going to wake up or I'm going to hurt somebody, you know, because like naturally, like I was drinking and driving, you know, and I had a friend, a good friend, a high school friend of mine who actually killed his best friend in a drinking and driving accident. And I saw what that did to his life. You know, it's something that you can never come back from. right? And so I just had this sinking feeling, and I just knew, you know, something had to change, but I had no idea what to do, where to turn, like where do I even begin, right? And so at that point in time, I just kind of dropped to my knees for the first time in who knows how long. You know, I've always believed in a higher power. To me, that's always been a God of my understanding. You know, but I was very disconnected spiritually, like very much so disconnected for a very long time. And, you know, I just kind of dropped to my knees and I prayed to whatever it was out there. And I said, I need help. You know, I need help. Something needs to change. What do I do? Right. And so, kind of a funny story, but not. But, you know, I tell this because it was so impactful for me. So years before that, I actually got an impaired driving charge in my early 20s. And I got court mandated to go see a doctor that specialized in addictions. And I went to go see him, and I remember him telling me, he's like, oh, have you ever considered, you know, like AA? And I just looked at him and I was just like, I scoffed at him and I was like, Alcoholics Anonymous, that's for alcoholics. That's not for me. You know, like I was in denial, you know, that wasn't me. Right.
Alcoholics Anonymous, that's for quitters. I ain't no quitter.
Yeah. And, you know, and the thing too, is that again, in society, like when we think of an alcoholic, right, we think of like, you know, we get that picture of like, you know, the person under the bridge with a paper bag, you know, type of thing. We hardly ever think of like professionals, you know, everyday people who like, you know, have great jobs, who are, you know, yeah, like have families, all that kind of stuff, right, who are functioning. So it's very much painted to us, very stigmatized, you know, to be labeled something like that, right? And so, you know, I scoffed at him and I never even thought about it. Like at that time, like I just went on with my life, and, you know, it was an inconvenience at the time. And then I just continued on with what I was doing. So here I was years later in this crossroads, and that conversation came up in my mind. And so, you know, at this point in time, I was just willing, you know, I was really, really willing to try whatever, you know, whatever could help. I was willing to try it. And so I gave it a try. And along with that, I just made the decision to quit drinking, just cold turkey, just like that. I just decided. And it was the hardest decision, but the easiest decision at the same time. And I just fully dove into the healing. So I started seeing therapists. I started going for trauma work. I started, you know, group therapies that literally saved my life. And I'll talk about a little bit about that later on, about my now purpose and mission with that. You know, I started hearing people from all different backgrounds in these rooms, in these groups, you know, share about their stories and about like what it was like, you know, what it was like for them. And I started to see myself in them, right? And because the thing with when you're in addiction is that you're so isolated, you're so lonely. Like you think you're the only one. Like I thought I was the only one that struggled like this. I thought, you know, no one understood what I had gone through. No one, you know, all of that stuff, right? But then the more I started hearing these stories, the more I started realizing that I absolutely wasn't alone, you know, and that really made a big difference for me. And so that ensued probably the next 3 to 4 years of just intensive work. Like instead of me coming home and drinking like I was before, I was coming home and I was like diving deep into the healing work, you know, and it's still very much so a part of my life still 8 years later. Obviously not as intensive, but it's a lifestyle for me, you know, to, you know, I still see a therapist. I still see, I have 2 that I've been seeing for the past 8 years who have been a tremendous help for me. You know, I still do support groups and things like that, you know, because you need the community, you need, you know, the fellowship of others that understand what you're going through. Right.
Yeah.
You've said so many amazing things, Abby. And, you're right in a lot of senses. A couple different things you said. One is that people appear on the outside, everything's fine, but on the background, not so much. And alcohol is huge that way. It's very, very hidden, very quiet. It's also fascinating, I think, with any addiction. And you're right, alcohol to me is one of the most profound ones. And I grew up in a family that was their world, and helped me to make a decision not to play that game by witnessing the destruction of it, which was good. But in our society, it's strange if you don't drink. Like it's odd.
Yes.
Well, you don't want a beer? No, I don't drink. Like ever?
Yeah. Oh, the questions.
I'm just the oddest person.
Yes.
I don't drink alcohol at all. And people are like, not even a little.
Yeah.
Can you imagine somebody goes up and goes, "You want some heroin?" No,
Yeah.
I don't do heroin. Not even a little. That would never come up. But with alcohol, all the time.
Exactly. It is just so normal, right?
Yeah.
It's very normalized, right? And from a very young age, you see it in movies, young house parties and teens, and it's very much normalized, right? And then that's why it's very hard to decipher for somebody whether or not they have a problem when they see everyone around them is drinking it just as much as they do, right? But maybe to that one person, it's impacting them in a deeper level, like in a much more severe level, right? So it is very insidious that way. And I remember like early on, that was one of my worst fears, for somebody to ask me, like, why aren't you drinking? Oh my gosh, that was like, I had to get so much like coaching for that, because I was so terrified to like be in a situation where, because I was so like, I was very raw at the time, right? Like very fresh, very raw into my journey and into admitting that this was this was part of me, right? Like this was an issue for me. Right. And now it's like, I'm very bold. I'm very bold about it. It's like, no, I do not drink. I struggled with it in the past, and it's not something I choose to do anymore. So, yeah.
Yeah, I saw that question as something that isn't necessarily about the alcohol. Questions like that, I find, would come up in all sorts of areas of my life because I wasn't reflecting the norm. And I went, oh, this isn't about the alcohol. This isn't about whatever it was that they were asking questions. It was, how come I'm not conforming? How come I'm not like everyone else that they're used to? And because that story or that narrative is so prevalent in their life, they're like, wait. And so they ask questions.
Yeah.
So I could either be offended by that, and I'm like the least offended person ever, or I could take this opportunity to just say, hey, I don't drink because it doesn't make me feel good. Or I don't do drugs because I can't stand the smell of it, let alone even trying to do it myself. Like, I don't want to hang out with you. Don't invite me to your parties.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Exactly. And it's so true. And, something interesting that happened when I made the decision to quit drinking, my social circle dramatically shrank. And there were some friends that I really thought they were lifelong friends, but when you took away the alcohol, there wasn't very much substance left there, right?
Yeah.
And other friends, I think by me admitting that it was a problem for me, it kind of made them, it was like a mirror to them, and it kind of made them, and it was very uncomfortable for them, and they weren't willing, right, at that time to really face up to like maybe their own issues. So my social circle just became dramatically like much less, right? But it was replaced with incredible quality, different people in my life, that I now have, I'm surrounded with incredible people in my life that I just, every single one of them, like we grow together, we learn together, we celebrate each other. Like, it's just a very like uplifting, amazing, like community to be a part of, right? Including the Blue Talks community, right? It's very special to me.
Yeah, I find that as a space of empowerment, not just for myself, but for those around me who do truly care about me as a person, even though that may be something that, as you said, reflects part of their habits. If they're sticking around and they're feeling uncomfortable with that, I know that they love me so much because they're willing to go through that discomfort in themselves, and change or not, that's their choice.
Yeah.
Support me in my decision while feeling uncomfortable. I'm like, man, okay.
That's a true friend.
Has elevated my view. Great.
Yeah.
So how has this led into the work that you do? What is it?
Yeah. So I started speaking about 2 years ago, almost, actually, I'm going to say 3 years ago, because I was pregnant with my middle son, who's almost 3 now. The first time I went up on stage, an actual stage, because I did speak like in the recovery groups, very in private kind of settings and stuff like that. But I did a talk when I was 8 months pregnant. And it was a 10-minute talk, and there was about 50 people in the audience. So it was, it was a fair amount of people. And I was so nervous, and I literally read off a paper. Like I was just reading my story off of a paper.
Yeah.
And it was just very raw. Like it was just very much like my story, kind of what happened and, the journey and stuff. Right. And after I was done, it was just like this. It was very empowering for me, because here I was up on a stage talking about something that for so long I had run away from. I did everything and anything not to deal with, and now here I was like pretty much shouting about it. Right.
Yeah.
And so I realized that the more I did that, it was not only healing for me, but it also took away the negative power and control it had over me, and instead empowered me. Right.
Yes.
And then the second big thing was the impact. So after that specific talk, I had 3 different people come up to me, and strangers, complete strangers, and share with me their stories. Right. And one lady was like, I have a daughter who's currently in addiction, and I don't know how to help her. Like, what do you suggest? Like, what advice do you have? And we had a beautiful conversation. Then I had another person come up and said, I was also a child of an alcoholic, and I'm struggling with some of the stuff, that trauma, and like what, like that kind of a thing. Right. And I was like, wow, like, this is actually impacting people. Right. And so, so the next time I spoke was at another like kind of smaller event. And then I did a bLU Talks in March of last year. And it was an amazing experience. And again, after that talk, I had several of the speakers come up to me, and we all cried together. We were hugging each other, crying, and and they all also had shared similar backgrounds, right? Where like it was like they were also child of alcoholics or drug addicts, or they had lost somebody to addiction or whatever it was, right? And it was just very beautiful and healing, right? Yeah. And it really made me. It just became very clear to me that this is a message that really needs to be continued to be shared, especially from a perspective of a woman. So a bit of a funny story again. So I did like I was a keynote speaker in January of last year, and it was broadcast worldwide. So it was on Zoom. It was hybrid. So there was like live people there, and then there was like a Zoom element to it. And it was like people from all around the world, like Australia, New Zealand, everywhere, right? And so I had an hour this time. So it was like, I went pretty deep into like a lot of details and like just like full on my story and stuff, right? And after I was done, like I got a standing ovation, and it was like really powerful. And then the organizer came up to me and was like, oh, I want you to come up and see like the chat. It's like blowing up, and there's so many beautiful messages. And so I went up and I started reading all the messages, and they were all great. And there was this one message from one person who was like, great story and everything, but I have a really difficult time listening to a woman talk about addiction. And I was like thinking to myself, like, what does that have to do with anything? Like women are very much so, addicts is as similar to men, right? But again, because of the stigma, right? So I started doing research myself, because that really like sparked for me, because I was like, why would he comment something like that, right?
Yeah.
And so I started
wait.
Yeah.
Are women even people? Too?
Seriously, but it's a very real thing. And like, the silently suffering women is a very real thing. Like it is very much, especially as a mom. So I'm a mom of 3 kids. I have 3 littles, age 4, 2, and 1. So I'm a fairly new mom in a very intense stage right now.
Yes.
But like, like in the mom world, like everyone talks about, oh, it's wine o'clock, or it's like, it's the end of the day, time to pull out my wine, or it's the middle of the day, I need to go in the closet and drink or whatever, right? To like cope with like the stresses, right? It's very much celebrated and laughed and like, just very encouraged, right? So when it does become a problem, there's a lot of shame around it, right? And because this is very much wrapped in shame, so many people have a difficult time to like actually open up and say, you know what, I'm actually struggling. This is not, and I've had people message me before, like private message me, friends of mine, and they were like, like, I drink wine at the end of the day because I need to take the edge off. Like, what do you think? Do you think it's like a problem? Like, I feel kind of guilty, like, these very real things. Right. And when I was doing the research, like female alcoholics or female addicts are like, they're actually, it's they're very much, there's only like a very small percentage difference between men and women, but women actually suffer greater than men in the sense that because it takes them so much longer to, admit that there's a problem. There's a lot of damage that happens, a lot of like physiological, like brain damage, all of that kind of stuff that really happens because of the secrecy of it. And a lot of them, unfortunately, they die from it, right? And it's very much shrouded in secrecy and shame, right? As because, again, the society view of what it looks like to be an addict is very different from what the reality is, right? And when I walked into like rooms of, for example, AA or other recovery groups, there were doctors, there were lawyers, there were teachers, there were very professional people that you would have never ever imagined, right? But because like we see it in movies and whatever, right? Like that, it just looks very different. It's very sad, and I think we need to change that narrative. We need to change that stigma, right? Because women are just, we're all human, we all have tendencies, and there's no difference between a man or a woman who struggles with addiction, right? And there shouldn't be, a comment like that shouldn't have even, been made. But unfortunately, that is somebody's viewpoint. That's the lens that they're looking at, right? So now in my path and in my mission, my soul's mission is to really make it safe for people to come together and heal through the power of story. So I'm currently doing my coaching and facilitating certification. It's a year-long program, and I'm really excited about it because I really see myself, like holding retreats, having people come together, with trauma backgrounds, with, like similar backgrounds to myself, or just people who want to heal, but just don't know where to start. Because I know for me, it was very difficult to find resources. I really had to hunt a lot to find all sorts of resources, right? And one of the key components of my healing journey was definitely the power of story, and coming together as a group of people and sharing these stories in a safe space, and having a facilitator that has skills to be able to safely lead people through this kind of work, right? And and so like I'm super excited to be able to work with people individually and groups, for them to come from a place of shame and disempowerment to like healing and empowerment with the telling of their stories, right? Because everybody has a message, everybody has a message and a story that I can impact a certain amount of people, just like you, Laura, can impact a certain amount of people, and you, Scott, right? Like we all have different people that can gravitate to us, right? And there's so many people out there, that have like incredible stories within themselves that need to be told, so that other people can draw hope and inspiration and say, you know what, I can see myself in that person, and look where they're at, there is hope. And so, so that's really like kind of my soul mission now to, continue to transform, because we can't teach transformation of something we haven't personally transformed from, right?
Yeah.
And so, so I'm a very much, advocate of continuing to overcome and work through the things I need to work through. My baby is crawling up here.
My cat usually does that around too, so nice with the kid this time.
Yeah.
It's an interesting thing too. Addictions come in all flavors. So there's lots of different addictions. You can be addicted to food, alcohol, drugs, sex, even exercise.
Yeah.
And it's always interesting, like you said, it's trying to fill something that's missing, and something that's hollow. And it's fascinating. I know for myself, there was a period of time you could probably say I was addicted to exercise, because I was competing on the world stage for ultra distance triathlons and stuff, Ironmans and Ultramans. And it was interesting to come to terms with the realization that for the longest time, I was trying to prove that I was good enough. I was trying to do something so impressive that my family would love me, and that like the ones I grew up with, not my wife, she does, but I was trying to prove I was good enough, and even to her family and stuff, and show that I was worthy and I wasn't a bum and I wasn't a loser and all that kind of stuff. And it's ultimately hollow. And once I came to terms with that, and realized what was really going on, I now am able to race because I enjoy it, because I love it, and I train because it's fun and it's rewarding and it helps my body become stronger and better, and it does all kinds of positive things. But it's interesting with things like alcohol and drugs, you can't do that. You can't integrate that back in safely for most people. The rule is once you're an alcoholic, that's permanent, and now you can never drink again, kind of thing. It's not like you can go back to having a little, right? Because one's one too many, because then 1,000's not enough.
Exactly.
And it's funny how those addictions are different. And I would say too, I would say I have a sweet tooth, but I have a food addiction too, like junk food, because if I have one chocolate, now I want 500 chocolates. So I think there's also an addictive personality. But how do you handle, in the sense of alcohol and drugs, it's a switch, it's on or off. It's just none. It's just none now. How do you deal with that in a world, like we said, where it's commonplace and it's everywhere? That temptation is always there.
I think early on it was harder. Like I said, for the first 3-4 years, I was kind of a hermit. Like, I wasn't really coming out with like going out or anything like that, just because I knew personally I couldn't be around it. I wasn't strong enough to potentially like say no, or explain myself. So I just avoided it altogether. I do have a relapse story in my journey. I did relapse after almost 60 days of sobriety. And again, because I wasn't prepared. I went out with some friends, some coworkers for dinner, and they ordered a bottle of wine. And, I thought to myself, I'm like, oh, it's almost been 60 days, like one glass of wine with dinner. I think I can do it. It's going to be fine. Right. But again, this is coming from the alcoholic mind, right? Yeah. That one glass was not enough, right? And so it led to like another blackout like night and everything like that, right? And that everything happens for a reason. And that was, I think I needed for that to happen, because it really confirmed to me that I was powerless. I was completely powerless to it, and I had no control over it. And so I knew that I just couldn't safely take a drink again, right? And in some of the programs I'm a part of, we talk about a day at a time, right? Because when we talk about you can never drink again, or you'll never, like it's big, right? It's like, oh my goodness. Like, I had a friend talk about how she like was like thinking like, I'm not going to be able to have champagne at my son's wedding. And like her son was like 4 at the time. And she was like, like thinking of like that far ahead, right? Where it was like, she was like stressing about that, right? So like we really learned to take things a day at a time. Then we say like in the morning, I'm just, like, for today, I'm not going to have a drink, right? Because anyone could do anything for one day, right? And then one day turns into 2, and then 3, and then weeks and months and all that stuff, right? But for me personally, there's no desire. There's no desire because, first of all, when I was drinking, it wasn't fun. Like, it wasn't like, you see in the commercial, somebody cracking open a beer on a hot day to like mow the lawn or whatever it is, to enjoy that. For me, it wasn't that. Like, that wasn't my story. I drank to basically get drunk, right? To black out, to not feel, not to numb, right? And now in my life, there's nothing, not an ounce of me that wants to numb anything that's in my life right now. I enjoy living life to the fullest. I know that for me, it wasn't enjoyable. It wasn't something that was pleasant. It was really, really it was a medication, right? And so it's like breaking free from healing from something that you no longer need that medication. And so why would I go back to it, right? So I know that's not the story for everyone, but for me, I have no desire. I can have just as much fun, in a place with everyone around me drinking, and I have, like, I've gone out for, I've gone for vacations and trips with friends, and, and they're drinking, and I'm there, and I'm enjoying myself. I'm dancing and having a good time. And, I don't need alcohol to enhance anything. In fact, it actually terrifies me, because I remember vividly, what it was like for me to take a drink, right? And so it is very much the society norm. But again, it would be a different story if I enjoyed it, but I really genuinely didn't, when I was drinking. Did I have a few fun times, in my drinking days? Yeah, like, with girlfriends and whatever, Vegas, whatever, but the was it worth the after effects, the hangovers and like how I felt about myself, the depression that comes with it? It's not, right? And so I really genuinely have no desire for it anymore. And it's not tempting for me at all, like, kind of weird. One of our, so my husband's Portuguese, and, we had been gifted, like, in Portuguese people love wine, they make wine and all that stuff, right? And there's like these delicious liqueurs from like the island that he's from, and they have them like with like desserts and stuff like that, right? And I remember like we were cleaning out our pantry and like we found these like liqueurs in there, and I thought to myself, oh, maybe when I'm 70, like, when I'm like an old lady, I'll have a little like glass of this or whatever. But I was like, wait a minute, what am I doing? Like, because alcohol, like, alcohol is, they say it's cunning, baffling, powerful, and it's patient. Regardless of how many years you have of sobriety, like I could have 20, 30, 40, 50 years of sobriety. And if I take that one drink, I'm right back to where I started, right back to where it doesn't matter all those years. It's progressive. It doesn't, there is no cure. I'm not cured, I'm recovering. Right. And I know that for me safely, I cannot take a drink, today, nor when I'm 70. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Abby, I'm curious because this is about amplifying your message. So of course, we love to ask people about their stories and the work that they do as a part of their message. But I'm also curious, why did you choose speaking as a part of your way to amplify your message?
Yeah, I feel like speaking chose me. I would have never, ever, ever imagined 8 years ago that I would be speaking about my story. But again, it really chose me. And now that it has chosen me, I've embraced it. And I feel like it's just so powerful to stand in a stage and share your message, and for it to reach, there's something about speaking that it reaches a wider audience than, potentially sometimes, because I write as well. I write, and I love that too. It's very healing for me to write and, blog and all that kind of stuff. But there's power in speaking, to an audience, especially a live audience. There's just nothing like it. When you're looking at when you're looking at everyone looking at you, and they're hung by your every word.
Yeah.
And, you feel like when you say something powerful in your story or in your message, and like you feel like the energy in the room, right? And then, it's very amazing. Like it's very amazing. And I feel it's a really incredible platform for anyone, because like I said, there's so much power in story, and everyone has a story and a message that others need to hear, right? And I just think that it's just like it's an incredible way to communicate, for me, a message of hope, a message of overcoming, and that you can do this too, and that we can break these chains of shame and of all that negative stuff that comes with, being an addict, right? Or with mental health issues. And we need more of it. There's definitely no shortage. There's no shortage of needing more of these kind of stories and people that are standing up and courageously sharing from a place of overcoming, right?
It's powerful too. Like, as much as the last few years have been crazy, there's been some real gifts and benefits to it, in the sense that as a speaker, for the longest time, we could impact the people in this room. It was great. And now, right now, we are live streaming on 6 Facebook groups or pages. We're on LinkedIn and we're on YouTube live all at the same time. Plus it's recorded, and then it's going to live on in replay, and it's going to be chopped into little pieces and shared. So this is going to go out to tens of thousands of people. And what I love about that is, as much as I still absolutely love being in front of a crowd and being the real people, that's my favorite as a speaker. But it's also cool that somebody somewhere struggling with addiction in the quiet darkness of their hideaway can watch you and see you and you can change their life immediately without even being in their presence. That's magic. And I
It
love that
is.
about being a speaker.
It's amazing. And the Blue Talks platform is incredible. It really is. I have nothing but good things to say about the community platform, Corey, Shelly, you know, like everyone that's behind the scenes. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's spectacular. What is so what's your goal? We have 5 minutes left. What's your big goal for you could really achieve something in the next few years to really make a difference in the world? What would that look like?
Yeah. So I'm going to start working on a memoir. So I'm going to actually write a personal memoir, which I've claimed will be a 5-year project for myself because it's going to be pretty intensive. You know, my background is very, very much rich with all sorts of, you know, trauma and generational, you know, just a lot of things that need to be brought to light. I believe there's a power in bringing it to light and shining a light on some of these dark things. And so that's a big 5-year goal of mine. And like I said, I'm currently in a coaching facilitating program that I'm as early as next year, I'm going to start taking clients. You know, I really do see myself, you know, having just a really successful, you know, coaching business, you know, impacting young and old. You know, I currently volunteer with children who are actually in institutions, so like in prisons and things like that. And I do have a heart and passion to talk to kids, you know, about like addiction, and you know, just kind of amplifying in that sense, because I do it in a small form right now with a small group, and it's powerful. Like to see these 15, 16-year-old kids who are there, obviously, you know, they did bad things, right? But all of them come from addiction backgrounds, right? Their parents, you know, and even them, right? They're struggling with substances at that time, right? And so, you know, starting as young as yeah, like is very young, right? And something that I forgot to mention is that when I was a little girl, and I was kind of in like, you know, the thick of like, you know, just the craziness going on in my life. And I remember thinking to myself, like looking and searching for anyone out there that looked like me, that sounded like me, that was like me, that could relate to me. And I didn't find anyone, right? I didn't have any role models to look at to say like, hey, you know, that person understands me. That person knows what I'm going through and look where they're at, right? But the incredible thing is that now I've become that person, right? I've become that role model that I so desperately needed, you know, as a young girl. And now that little me inside of me, because she's still in there, you know, she's still in there with me, right? I can actually connect to her now and say, you know, like, I believe you and I see you and I feel you and look where we're at today, you know? And so I'm very passionate about becoming just a really strong role model to, you know, kids, you know, to, you know, women, men alike, you know, just have an impact in my way, you know, even if it's in a small way, you know, in the world, you know, by me continuously getting uncomfortable, because it's not comfortable talking about these things sometimes, right? Because they come from like the deep recesses of our life, right?
Yeah.
But you know, when I get the messages, when I get the private messages, the DMs, the emails of people telling me how much it impacted them to hear what I had to share, you know, and that they can, you know, they look up to me or whatever it is, right? It is just so, it's so gratifying. And then it confirms to me that I'm on the right path. So those are kind of like my big dreams and visions for the next few years and beyond.
Nice. How do we find you?
Yeah, so I'm on I have a personal blog page on Instagram, and it's at uh.vee. I'm currently in the works of doing my website that's going to be launched in February. So I'm super excited about that. We're in the works from getting branding photos, all of that stuff. And so we're going to launch that in February. And that's going to be my HubSpot for all things, like all of my like interviews, videos, you know, how you can work with me, all of that kind of stuff. So when that comes live, I'll have that on my Instagram, and then as well as my Facebook page, which is Abigail Teixeira.
And so your Instagram is at uh.vee. That's your blog. Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. I'll post that out for the world. It'll come as if Corey's posting it, but it's secretly me.
Awesome.
Excellent. That's fantastic. And Abby, I just want to shout out too that it's so easy to be like, oh, look at Abby, she's so beautiful, and she's got 3 young children and a wonderful husband. She's happily married, and she's been a professional, and she's got it all together, and everything's perfect, and it's always been easy for her. For you to have the courage to go, want to bet? Let me tell you. And people go, oh, like that whole, oh my gosh, you too? I had no idea. And that is such a powerful gift that you're giving the world, is being real, saying, hey, yeah, I am beautiful and have 3 kids and life is great.
It wasn't always like that. Yeah. Thank you guys. Yeah, this was great. You guys are both wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thanks for being on the show.
This is lovely.
Yeah.
Have a wonderful day. Hug your kids.
All right. See you guys.
All right. Well, that was excellent. Love hearing from Abby. And again, such courage to just go out and change the world with her experiences.
And she was speaking all the things that I love to share with people. It's like, speak from that sparkle, speak from that healed place.
Yeah.
Your story is what helps other people see that they can give themselves permission to share their story too.
Yeah, 100%. And I'm really excited about our next speaker, because we get to jet across the world right now.
I know.
Magic and technology. Yeah. So I'm going to bring Anu forward to the stream. Hello.
Hi.
Hi, Scotty, and hi, Laura. So nice to meet you.
I get to say it's good morning to you, because it's
a bit of, I'm not sure whether it's good night or good morning. So yeah, it's interesting. It's what I would say.
We want to celebrate you for, I'm assuming that you didn't just stay up this whole time, but waking up to get yourself dressed, like be camera ready, and awake enough to have a conversation with us. So I'm celebrating you for showing up. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Laura. It was nice to connect with you on Facebook. I think it was just, your vibe was really awesome, and I was up. I didn't sleep. I was like, if I sleep, I will not wake up, and therefore I just stayed up.
Just gonna crash in about an hour.
Yeah, no, I didn't. So this is when it helps to have teenagers in the house, because they're up as well. And then they're like, Mom, you go to bed at 9 p.m. Why are you still awake?
Yes, definitely. So tell us a little bit about you. I have been playing with this fun question that's making people uncomfortable, but in a fun way. And I've been asking, like, what are 3 words that you would use to describe yourself? Or if that's too hard, what are 3 words that you would love other people to use to describe you?
Oh, lovely question, Laura. And the interesting thing is, I actually asked my friends this question last year, so that I have a few words at the tip of my tongue. Calm, energetic, and passionate.
Okay.
Are the 3 things.
From that, the first question is, how can you be calm and energetic at the same time?
Brilliant. That's absolutely. I love your question, Laura. You are already really picking up on this. So yeah, I noticed there is a bit of a paradox in me, and maybe this kind of goes into the kind of work that I do. Yes. And I kind of feel that I display energies that can be calming if I'm doing one-on-one coaching and I'm really tuned in and I'm listening. And I feel that that's what's needed, just to be present and hold the space for people to kind of go a little bit deeper into, their voice, their challenge, their issues. But also because I do hold big group workshops, so groups of 30 or 50. And that's when I feel that, okay, calm will put people to sleep at the back. So it's a bit like, hi, can everyone see me? So I do display that kind of energetic, a little bit more out there kind of energy. So I think I'm able to kind of, blend both, or just kind of pivot on either one, depending on what's needed.
I love that so much, because I know that the type of work that I deal with, and I'm guessing there's many of us in this interview process this week who have really heavy topics. And so sometimes if we're too calm or if we're too serious, it just kind of brings the whole energy down. Okay. So I've realized that I also have to be playful, which is me. It's me at the same time. So I'm like, I get to be deep and I get to be joyful and playful. And those things work really well together. So sometimes those oxymorons are exactly what we need to have that balance. So then how do those words and this this version of you play into the work that you do?
Yeah, so it does. And again, if I kind of go back to, the story of where I am or where I was and where I am today, I think it really, really highlights this dichotomy or paradox of almost energies that we have as human beings, right? And we are never one fully, and neither are we the other, or maybe a third or fourth. We're always a blend. We're always complex as humans. And so in my work, I do a lot of one-on-one organizational coaching, which I kind of assume many of us do in this space in bLU Talks. And the way I started in coaching or organizational coaching was literally 6 years ago, or actually coming to 7 years ago. And I was kind of listening a little bit to the speaker before me, and I met lovely Abby in Miami last month. And so I do remember her story that she shared with all of us. It's such a powerful story. And what I realized, and of course I heard lots of other stories in Miami, last month. And what I realized is that actually my story is, it's one of those, I would say, very normal. Like, I would consider myself a very normal person. Nothing major happened in my life. Like, I didn't have a huge, if you know what I mean, I didn't have a huge turning point. I would almost say I had a very stable career. I was in the Singapore Public Service, which many people think is a very stable career. I didn't have to do anything. I'll be taken care of for life, and that'll be it. It's just like cruising along. And then 6-7 years ago, I just woke up one day. I'm like, something is missing. Like, something is not right. And I couldn't pinpoint it. I'm like, this is great, but and I didn't know what this but was. And so I went on a retreat. It was a bit of a soul searching retreat. And I honestly just came back, resigned, and set up my own company. And I think what I learned from the retreat was not so much the idea of, going on retreats, which is of course really wonderful. It's wonderful if you can take the time to do that, but just the idea of slowing down to strategize. I think that's what I really got out of it, that in our busyness of life and just being on this hamster wheel, we sometimes don't take the time to just step off it and even to ask ourselves, like, yeah, this is working fine, nothing is broken, yet there is a bigger calling out there. And have you heard that voice? And it's usually an inner voice, right? There's nobody telling you something like that. So there's this whole idea of, I'm passionate, I'm excited, I can be really, my husband says, why are you so excited all the time? Can you just calm down? So I do heed his words once in a while, but I kind of realized there is value in slowing down, in just resting for building resilience. And in a way, Laura, I'm kind of meandering into what brought me into the space of coaching and just facilitation training, and of course now speaker as well. So absolutely love it. So absolutely. Also, I think my message to everyone is, you could be absolutely normal. I consider myself a plain Jane, and it's fine. It's absolutely okay. There is still something about each one of us that is worth sharing, that is worth, somebody out there needs to hear your story. So don't worry if you haven't scaled Mount Everest or, done something wonderful, because I haven't.
You know what your story reminds me of, though? It reminds me that I am so stubborn to not listen to what my life was telling me in a gentle way.
Yeah.
The universe was like, you're not listening. You're still not listening. Oh my God, what do we need to do for you to listen? And then boom, bicycle accident. You didn't wait that long, so I want to congratulate you for that. And there are people who can recognize that so easily, and that is a wonderful skill to have. A lot of those struggle stories, we're not getting it.
Yeah.
But you don't want to wait that long.
No, you don't.
I feel like your life is kind of that plain Jane, as you described it. Good. Like, now's the time to start before you crash and burn like other people.
Absolutely, Laura. I agree with you. And I think, Laura, the thing about the last 2 years is that, obviously, unfortunately, many of us were forced to slow down. It was a global force that you had no choice but to just stay in your house, and you're kind of forced to slow down. And again, back to paradoxes of life, right? That in that forced slowing down, there was anxiety as well, because it was not something that, you know, we wanted or we were intentional about. It just came. It just came for us, and we had no choice in this matter, right? So I realized in the last 2 years, as I was speaking to my clients, my one-on-one coaching, this slowing down was actually hard. It was actually difficult. It was not something that, you know, they came out of it. Okay, now I know that this is what I want to do, or I'm going to shift my priorities. It was just, you know, oh, I'm hitting against a wall, literally, and this is not fun, and I don't know what I'm doing, and I just want to get out. So again, that made me think a little bit about this idea of slowing down. And I think what I would add to that is that it needs to be a choice. It needs to be something that we choose for ourselves. And if we don't have that element of choice, it can actually become a bit draining as well. It can pull us down. So as much as I, you know, encourage people to, you know, take a breath, just calm down and slow down, I do recognize that, especially for leaders who have been in, you know, high functioning jobs and careers, it is actually hard for them, and they do need some partner or some guidance or just someone to hold a space for them. And that's actually where I come in. That's you know, this is a space that I create for them to just, you know, kind of walk this journey, that it's okay if some days feels like, no, this is not working for me. I actually just want to be out there and doing my 10 km run. And I'm like, yeah, that's fine. Again, back to the paradox of this. You know, you kind of just see where is your energy at this point. You kind of recognize that, as you said, Laura, and kind of listen to yourself. It's a bit of, I think in this busyness of, especially social media, and I'm guilty as well, we kind of really lose connection with what we are saying to ourselves, and we're not paying attention enough to our inner wisdom. And I believe that our inner wisdom will not lead us astray. There is an intuition within us that really guides us. Yeah, this is what I've noticed in the last 2 years, Laura, and just people not really enjoying it, a forced slowdown, but still, you know, of course, things are getting a bit better now, and you know, people are getting back to normal routine, I guess.
Yeah, after everything that's happened, I'm feeling the deep core need of just having a little bit of calm, to do a lot of self-awareness, a lot of self-assessment.
Yeah.
And my mind is like, well, we want to get this done faster so that we can do the things that we love. But then the universe and the feelings and my intuition are like, no, you need to slow down.
Slow down.
For me, COVID wasn't this jolt to my business. It was actually a launching point for my business. Yeah. So I didn't have that chance to slow down. Then I went to Harvard this summer, and then like a wedding, and then it was just, oh my God, chop, 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 chop. That now I'm finally having that time to just slow down, but I'm resisting it. I was curious about, you use the word organization. Do you mean organization as in like putting things in places, or do you mean organization as in like a business type organization?
Yeah, I meant more of a business, people working in corporates. Those are usually my clients, and that's where I note exactly the word you used, Laura, that there is some resistance to this idea. And so they are like, oh yeah, we want to develop as a leader, and can we do it by next month? Can we get it done? And I'm like, well, yes and no, and more of no. So you're right, there is a bit of resistance, and which is where I think the main value that I bring is experiencing what it means to slow down with somebody. And I think that can be really powerful if you have somebody who is also not in a rush. And I am usually not in a rush in my coaching conversation, so I'm not as excited. I bring down my calm side, and I'm not in a rush, and I'm just kind of allowing space for people to honestly slow down, listen to themselves, and tap on the inner intuition, because the answer is actually within them. And as much as they are asking me the question and asking the answer, it is. Yeah.
You said tap, so I was like, I have a feeling that is part of what you mean.
Laura, it's interesting that you started doing that, because it's exactly the next thing I want to explore, a little bit more deeply, because I think it's really powerful in unleashing energy. So I don't fully understand, but I am very curious. So I do go with my curiosity. So so Laura, absolutely. It is about, I think, slowing down with intent and with somebody, especially for the leaders who I work with, who I engage with, and I kind of need to meet them where they are. So they are busy. That's a lot on their mind, obviously. And so it's almost like they're asking me, "Oh, what's the ROI in slowing down?" So, which is an interesting question in itself.
My husband had a great response for that. One day he explained it to me. He's like, when you're always inhaling, like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. He's like, when you have the moment to just exhale,
oh, beautiful,
you can breathe in again.
Oh, lovely.
He called it the exhale. And he's like not a spiritual person. He's not really into development. And for him to describe it that way, I was like, wow. That makes a whole lot of sense, because we feel that stress. We feel like I have to do this. I have to do this. I have to, could, should, woulds, all of that. And it does feel like that inhale constant.
Yeah.
Letting yourself exhale allows you to take a full deep breath to do whatever it is you're going to do next. I thought that was beautiful.
Yeah, that's a beautiful description. You should interview him.
I don't think he'd like that very much. This is very much my kind of thing.
It's a truth in so many things as well, not only in business and everything in life. And it has been one of the wonderful things that's come out of the last 2 years. And there's good in everything if you look for it. Sometimes it's not as obvious as others, but it's interesting as a coach, a nutritional coach and everything that I do. I think one of the challenges I have, especially with A-type personality athletes, is you have to rest too. You can't just run as hard as you can all the time. You can't. Your body actually heals and gets faster when you rest and sleep. And I think that's true in business too. I know before the world went a little bit crazy, I was working 80 to 100 hours a week, and it was go, panic mode all the time, stress all the time. I couldn't sleep because of the anxiety, trying to think about, oh my gosh, I got to do this, that. My brain would never shut up. And, it was 1,000 miles an hour all the time. You're less creative, you're less productive, you're less helpful, and it's not any fun.
No. Oh,
and
yes.
You're living in fight or flight, and there's a beauty calming down.
Oh,
I also love visual analogies. So every time I think of rest, I imagine this catapult. I can't fling myself forward and be more effective and more productive and more whatever if I'm not taking that time to at least pull back a little bit, and then I can fling. But then I need to pull back a little bit, and then I can fling.
Oh, that's lovely imagery, Laura. Oh, beautiful. I'm going to absolutely sleep with that imagery tonight. It's beautiful.
I love it. That's genius. Because if you're constantly like one click spring, if you would just calm down,
splat,
and get 20 clicks, think of what you could do.
That's so crazy. It came into my awareness after going to university and everybody telling me university's so hard. I made university hard based off of what they said.
Yes.
And so I thought that was the end of the world. I thought I failed. I thought I wasted years.
Yeah.
And then I went to college afterwards. Same kind of learning, but I didn't have that belief anymore. And I went from second last in my engineering class to second in the entire school.
Oh, wow. Congrats. That's wonderful.
And it was because I allowed myself to just take that step back.
Yes.
And look at that year that I thought was a failure and went, I learned things that year.
Oh, yes.
About myself, about the the type of learning that I like, about the teachers, about this story I have in my head.
Yeah.
And as soon as I realized the goodness in that and the lessons that were there for me to learn,
Yes.
I felt that catapult pulling back. And I went, wait, now that I know these things,
Yeah.
I can do even better than I'm already doing. And then
Yeah.
I watched myself fling and I went, wow. So now I have this visual every time when I think of rest. My mom was always go, go, go too. So I have to remind myself when I want to be productive all the time, I need to just stop. I need to take a rest and I can be more productive later. Rest is helping me be more productive.
Yeah. Oh, I love your story, Laura. And actually, what really resonated is the fact that, you said, I learned the lessons I had to learn. And that is such an important element in life for us, that we can go through experiences, but we don't really learn from them. So we just kind of back to the thing, right? Hamster wheel. We're just going one thing after another. We are not even slowing down to actually learn, what have I learned from this? What do I want next? And Scott, you were saying the fight or flight, that and the how calming down is so applicable, or breathing, this idea of breathing, so applicable in so many aspects of life. It just brought this story in my mind. Last year, so my parents, they live with me. They're in their 70s and they live with me, and I've got 3 teenagers as well, so it's kind of a full family. And last year, my mother, she fell. She had a fall in the house. And so you can imagine the whole fight or flight response is absolutely on high alert. So we called an ambulance. The paramedics came up. They came up the steps, and I remember at that point in time, right, all I wanted was pick her up, get her in the ambulance, get her to the hospital. That was all that I had in my mind.
Yeah.
And the paramedic, he looked at me and he looked at my mom and he's like, "Oh, has she eaten anything yet?" And I was like, "What do you mean, has she eaten anything yet? I mean, just get her to the hospital. We will figure that out later." And he's like, "Oh no, because she is elderly, I don't want to scare her by taking her down the steps, because it will be that awkward position of taking her down the steps. So I'm going to make sure her blood sugar level is right, and that she's breathing well, and she's not going to hyperventilate, and she's going to just calm down, right?" And in that moment, I just, it's one of those things, right, Scott, that this message just keeps coming back from different people in your life, that even the paramedic is teaching me that in an emergency, actually the thing you need to do is to calm down and not do the inhaling thing, Laura, that hyperventilating thing, right? Just calm down, because if you are excited, you're not helping anyone. You just got to calm down and take it slow and steady and do first things first, which is make your patient comfortable. So what a lesson. What a beautiful lesson in just calming down. Lesson for me, Scott.
Yeah, and that's so powerful. So many just I applaud that paramedic. Holy cow! Because first of all, too, going into the medical system, I don't know what it's like in Singapore, but I would imagine it's similar, where now you're in an ambulance and then it's a ride, and then you wait in the hospital and you wait to see the thing. Like, there's nothing nice or comfortable about it. So have something to eat and just chill. Obviously, if eating is dangerous to the condition you're in, fair enough. But obviously he assessed that. But it's just so amazing to like you said, be reminded of that, because if we're in fight or flight all the time, we're just reacting to things.
Oh, beautiful. Yes.
Versus responding.
Yes.
Right? Just calmly going, what's the best thing to do? I don't know about you, but I quite often react, and I'm like, oh, I shouldn't have said that. I wish I would have responded.
That's one of the things I love about my husband, is I can count on him in stressful situations to always be that, okay, what are we going to do? And it's like all he needs is that one breath.
Yeah.
And he goes right into, how do I respond to this situation in a calm, cool, collected way, knowing that nothing is going to get done if he's not there.
Yeah.
And I also know that in the situations that would make him stressed, I am that one that goes, how can I do that?
Yes.
And it tends to be opposite kinds of situations. So then it works really well. So in the spring, we almost got kicked out of our place because we had cats for the last 10 years. whatever. Big old miscommunication and mess. That was the one where he crashed and I was the one that took over. And it was a weird feeling to know that in this moment where I felt like everything in my life was crashing around me.
Yes.
Then, that I was the one that was super calm. And then once we had enough taken care of, he was the one super calm. And my mind was like, you do realize what's going on, right? And I went, oh, and then I went into the stressful mind. It was really interesting.
Yeah, it's kind of lovely to have a bit of that partnership, right, with your partners. That when you are in that state, then your partner is calming you down. When your partner's in that state, you know, you're kind of the one calming down. So it's a nice blend there. And yeah, actually, kind of speaking of partners, you know, when I said that I kind of resigned 7 years ago and started my own business, I think huge credit to my husband. Without him, it would just not be possible. And you know, the thinking that we have in us, right? That, oh, is this a right thing to do? As much as your intuition is telling you, is this a practical thing to do when you've got 3 kids, right? Is this the thing you should be doing, leaving a stable job and starting your own career? But he's a man of few words, but his words are always golden. It's always like, yeah, it's fine. Go ahead, do it. I'm here. And, you know, in those moments, all you need is that, like, someone's got your back, and whatever comes your way, it's fine because you have somebody in your life who has your back. So that's the one thing that I truly hope everybody has that feeling in their life, that they have somebody, and it doesn't have to be a romantic partner or a husband, wife. It's just somebody who you know has your back, because that really kind of propels you forward, kind of makes you soar, and just makes you, you know, kind of take the leap of faith that it's all okay. You know, in my darkest moments, someone is going to catch me. Someone has seen my worst side, and it can't get any worse than this. There is only up. And yeah, so that just reminded me, Laura, as you were speaking about your husband.
Okay, now I'm picturing that whole catapult thing where I'm in the little tub and they're the one cutting the cord. I'm like, okay, I'm ready. I got my hands on the sides.
Okay, Laura, I'm going to associate you with a catapult from now on. That's it. This is catapult Laura for me.
That's fine. Because my mind, in order for me to really, truly understand information, I basically play a movie in my head. So if you start with information that is so intangible and I can't create anything in my mind, then I'm like, whoa. Okay, you need to stop. You need to give me some sort of context so that I can create something that I can manipulate and have a story going. Otherwise, I kind of get it maybe for 5 seconds and then it's gone.
I love that.
I have her trained now to like start with some context or something and then tell me what it is that you're doing.
Right. Yeah, I love that. Nice. I love the story that's going in your mind. That's lovely. A movie playing.
Yeah. So what kind of projects are you working on right now?
So I'm in the middle, or I would say start. I wouldn't say middle. I'm in the start of writing a book. And so this is based on my last 5-6 years of experience with leaders and what I've noticed, and kind of helping them with some quick tips for, especially, I think my focus, or as they say, who is my target audience? My target audience are female leaders. I am slightly more focused in Southeast Asia because those are mostly where I get my clients from. And there is a slight nuance in cultural differences. So I'm kind of speaking a little bit to that. So that's quite a big thing for me on my plate, I would say. Quite excited. And that was one of the reasons why I was in US last month. I was kind of attending a book writing workshop, and then kind of, did a talk with bLU Talks in Miami. So that's one. The others are slightly more things that I've been doing for the last 4 or 5 years. So I do my one-on-one coaching. I do my workshops, which are leadership training workshops. And I am now starting to speak a little bit more. So doing a few more speaking engagements. And I'm kind of just noticing that I really need to balance it a little bit and give more time to the book writing. So just actually, I need to slow down myself and so that I can strategize for my book. So cannot take my own pill and my own medicine here. So yeah, that's where I am at this point.
So what are those pieces about speaking and writing that you love? Like, why did you choose speaking and writing as some of your platform for sharing your message?
Oh yeah, lovely question, Laura. And in a way, it goes back to the thing that I was saying earlier, right? Like, I am really a very plain Jane, Laura. I can't emphasize that enough. That I've been for so many talks. I've been wowed by so many speakers, and they've got this amazing story to tell, journeys that they've in. And every time I've sat in that big auditorium or big hall, and I was looked in awe at people on stage, and I'm like, they've got such a powerful message. They're impacting so many people. It's so energizing. It's so motivating. What do I have? Like, what message do I have? Who am I? Like, I have nothing. I haven't done anything fantastic. I mean, I've just lived. I've got 3 kids. And so for many years, this just kind of festered in my mind. Like, what do I have that is worth telling? And I think I came to that point where I felt that actually, and again, it's not something that I just came to myself, right? It was other people telling me, other women especially coming to me and saying that we love reading your blogs, we love reading whatever you put on in LinkedIn. It is so nice that you are putting a voice in the social media arena. And that just got me thinking, okay, maybe even the fact that I am saying something, and it doesn't have to be the next big theory out there, but just the fact that I would consider myself, a shy Singaporean girl, clearly of Indian ethnicity, just saying something at a global platform. I really wish to inspire and encourage other. I mean, I'm kind of saying women, but yeah, it can be men as well. Just other people to kind of just step up and kind of just know that whatever it is in you, there is one thing in you that will resonate with somebody else. And you don't need to resonate with 100 people, 1,000 people. You just need to resonate with one person. And that for me is enough. If I can change one person's perspective or life in some way, that is enough. So I think that's what brought me to this whole idea of speaking, and just kind of seeing that actually it's a huge stepping out of my comfort zone. It is really huge, Laura. I mean, I can't explain to you how big this is for me.
Oh, I can read it. I can read it in your eyes.
Yeah. So yeah. Thanks for saying that. So, I think you were speaking of uni days and all, and honestly, I've written about this before on my social media, that when I was in university and I was in UK as an undergrad, and I remember one of my first lectures, I was sitting next to somebody, and I don't know what I think I was talking to her, and she just turned around to me and she said, "Oh, you've got a really funny accent." And it's one of those moments, right, that I just kind of shut up for 3 years. Well, not literally, but as in not speaking up, not using my voice, not owning my voice, right? So I was just so embarrassed that, oh my God, my accent is so funny. I shouldn't speak up. And this is the thing that I needed to step out of and just own it. And this is who I am. And I'm not going to change, the way I speak, the way I look. And so what I guess my message in stepping up and doing public speaking and writing a book is that it really doesn't matter. You don't need to change yourself. All of us has a story, and it could be a catapult story, Laura, and somebody needs to hear it. So just own your voice, own your presence, and go make a difference to somebody.
Yeah. Not all stories are those ones that run along and then dip and then up and then go back to life. They're not all big moments.
No.
There are many stories that you don't even notice. They're so gradual. But if you look back on your life, Anu, to where you were even 5 years ago, do you recognize that older version of you? Even 2 years ago, right? You've come a long way. So it's the same thing for people who don't have those crash.
Yes.
It's more annoying. Yours is safer. You still have those big growth periods. And that's what you're sharing is your growth.
Yeah.
But your job is different in the fact that you need to highlight those milestones along the way that show that you were growing and how you were growing.
Yeah.
Because those other people that relate to you, they're not recognizing those milestones because they're not boom in your face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's a lovely way to describe it, Laura. Yeah, very, very much so. I think the idea that you said of not recognizing milestones. So it's a bit of, we are progressing. Sometimes, again, we don't slow down. We don't get off the hamster wheel or the treadmill to even recognize that we have progressed. And then, if you want to make it more intentional, so how can you put more energy towards the thing that you want to create for yourself and be a bit more intentional rather than leaving it to, chance or, circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, you speak to all the people out there that have a similar path to you, right? Mother of 3, mother of 2, something like that. Female in an executive world that may be male dominated. How did you survive that? What can I learn from you?
Yeah.
You don't have to headbutt a bridge and break your skull open.
Please don't headbutt.
There's lots of different ways to do things, right? This is what I did.
Telephone pole, like either or.
Sure. And it's fascinating. We were talking earlier about react versus respond, and that person that said, "Oh, you have a funny accent." Like,
I love it.
A response would be like, "Wow, so you've never left your neighborhood? You've never been anywhere else? Because I got to tell you, you're the one with the accent. If you come to my house, like." We can't do that. It doesn't work that way. But
I wish I had Scott as my coach when I was 19 and I knew what to say as opposed to react and just keep quiet. So absolutely, Scott, right? Our reactions, and back to response and reaction, our reactions may not always necessarily be anger on an outburst. It could really turn inwards and you just shut yourself out. But again, just recognizing that's a reaction. We are not being true to ourselves, and we are not being, in a way, purposeful, right? So you're absolutely right. The response and the reaction can come on in so many different ways, and it's not only an outburst, which is what we usually associate with reaction. It's not always anger. It can be actually a flip side, which is just as bad.
Yeah, well, and it's powerful to learn from that and to look back and go, okay, that's what happened. That was my reaction. But that had nothing to do with me. Like that person saying I had a funny accent had nothing to do with me and everything to do with them.
Yeah.
I reacted this way.
Yeah.
What can I learn from that? And that awareness allows choice, and that's power.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Beautiful.
Then you're not stuck.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
So you do retreats and stuff too. Have you done many retreats? Was that a new thing for you? I poked at your website.
Oh, nice. You've done your research. Well, again, this was more of pre-COVID. COVID did put it a little bit, it was difficult, obviously, to do face-to-face retreats, and it was, we didn't do much of that. It is coming back slowly now, and so now I'm shifting towards corporate retreats, so organizations that feel that, we want to take our teams and strategize a little bit more, and get our leadership team together and kind of just plan for what's coming up in the new year. So I think that's coming back slowly but surely. Now that people have started meeting face to face, so it was hard in the last 2 years to do retreats. But now it's coming back, and that's something I'm definitely looking forward to restart in 2023 for sure.
Yeah, I can't wait to do retreats. I've only ever been to one retreat, but I really want to plan my own, and there's a whole other atmosphere and energy when you go, not just for like a 3-day event, but when you're there day, night, evening, you're spending the whole time with people doing the same work as you.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, it is powerful. I mean, you're right. It is very powerful. And for some people, they might think that, this is another corporate event. But if you, again, back to the idea, if you create space and make it intentional and purposeful, it can be very powerful. It can really unite people and surface some things that are under the surface that need to be said, that hasn't been said yet. So it's not always happy and comfortable, but the comfort is knowing that there is safety in having that dialogue. So there is a space for creating safety for people to have those kind of difficult conversations. And that's what I think retreats can be really powerful as well.
So I have another hard question for you.
Oh.
They're playfully hard. So here's the hard question. If there was one thing that you needed people to understand about the work that you do, what would that be?
Well, I think I would go back to the idea that I am not a Miss Fix-It, so I do not give solutions. And as much as people ask me, oh, what's your tip? I don't really go down the tip route. And I would say that I really create space for you to deepen, for people to deepen into their own inquiry. So I always seek questions rather than answers. I think the beauty is in the questions, because we're always seeking answers, but we kind of lose track of what are the questions that life is actually presenting us.
Yeah.
So I would just say that, I'm not a Miss Fix-It. I do not have those 3 steps that will change your life and world, but I will hold space. It can be uncomfortable, but it will deepen. It will deepen your life, and I will hold a space where you feel that you are able to voice what's not being said to anybody else as well.
So here's what I'm hearing. I'm hearing that you hold space to facilitate an environment where people learn how to ask better questions.
Oh, beautifully said. That's exactly what I said, Laura.
You're like,
I love the way you paraphrase.
It's okay, this is recorded. You can go back and.
Oh yeah. Because that's what my mind does. Is my mind loves to say it in like a bajillion different ways, but then I want it to be perfect because old me says things need to be perfect. So there's always that questioning of like which word describe things better, and because I want to know the root. I can say it in all these different ways, but what are they all really trying to tell me?
Yes.
And so my mind is like, what are the root words? I can simplify and clarify and articulate. Yes.
Beautiful.
That's what I mean. That sounds about right. Great. How do we find you on social media? I noticed that
I've got a website, so it's www.anushroff. Oh, Scott has already checked me out. So Scott, you would know this. Anushroff.com. So ANUSHROFF.com. And it has connections to my LinkedIn, IG, and Facebook.
Nice.
And I posted that. It looks like Corey Poirier is posting it, but it's me.
It's you. Okay. Lovely. Okay.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Corey signed into all his stuff. Trying to share all the interviews.
I want to say too, we don't enough, but a big acknowledgement and thank you to Corey, not only for bringing us all together, but for creating Blue Talks, but also Laura for trusting you and I with this platform and being able to be the co-host of the Amplify Your Message. Yeah. What a gift to be on with Anu all the way in Singapore, where it's 2:30 in the morning, and the magic of technology. Like, this is so Star Trek.
Yeah, right? You're exactly 12 hours away from me.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Yeah, it was my pleasure talking to you, Laura and Scott. What a beautifully hosted conversation. I've absolutely enjoyed having this conversation with both of you, and I really, really hope I get to see you at some point face to face if I make a trip to US again.
Yeah,
we're both in Canada.
Yeah.
You're in Canada? Okay.
A little further.
Yeah, we're both Canadian, eh? You want to talk about an accent, eh? We're from Canada, eh?
Just that over there, boy.
I want to come to Malaysia. Never mind North America. I've been here. Let's go there.
Yeah. A friend of mine's from Malaysia. And I'm like, I don't even know where that is because I learned geography and French. So she took out a map and she's like, there it is. Like,
oh, yeah. So we're just at the bottom of Malaysia. You see a red dot? That's us.
Yeah.
Dot.
It's little. And
It's
5
very
million
little,
Yeah.
which I think in a way plays on our psyche as citizens of Singapore, that we're very small. So I'm trying to create a bigger version of myself.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Thank you
That's
so much for
fantastic.
your time. I've really enjoyed this. It's been really lovely. Hope to see you again.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
Bye.
Have an amazing day or
You-
middle of the night.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Go rest. Bye. So how many times have we heard that we are amazing interviewers because we ask fun questions? I really think it's because we're both just really curious people, and the fact that we like people, and the fact that we're extroverts, all kind of swirled into one.
I'm an extroverted introvert.
I'm going to read your eyes later if you want me to, and then I can tell you like where your defaults are and and then what
All right.
you've learned on top of what your defaults are.
Yes.
Yes.
I have a lot of fun with you and with our guests too. And speaking of guests, I'm resisting the temptation, but I'm going to fail to ask if she brought a fiddle, but I have to say the hyphen part because it's Ashley McIsaac Butler.
Yes.
Hello.
Hey, Ashley.
How are you?
So you're not the 10 million miles an hour half drunk.
No
Canadian
fiddle,
fiddler.
no fiddle here. Sorry. If we had more time, maybe I would give you a little step, but
Welcome.
thank you for having me and thank you for creating this space. I'm so happy to be here.
First, I want to start off by saying welcome to bLU, the bLU community. So, yay!
I'm so grateful. This community has been so fabulous so far. I mean, it is really feels like a family.
Yeah.
And the more you get into it, the more we all lean into it too. And it spirals and it's absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
This was one of those communities where I was looking for heart-centered entrepreneurs in all these different areas and I just wasn't finding it. And when I finally leaned in, because I knew Corey since 2016, 2014, I lost count. Then when I leaned in, I was like, wait, I'm surrounded by them. I'm just not talking to them. So now I'm talking live for them now. So I do want to say welcome. Yay. It was a pleasure to meet you at the Speakers Boot Camp and having a one-on-one conversation. And so when I heard that you were having an interview, I was like, I know this person. So welcome.
Yay.
We're having fun with an intro question. And I'm explaining it in two different ways. So the first part is, I want to know 3 words that you would use to describe yourself. And if that's too hard, because we all know describing ourselves can be a little difficult sometimes, what would 3 words be that you would love other people to describe you?
Ooh.
Yes.
That is a hard one. 3 words that either I would describe myself or other people would describe myself. You would
like other people to describe you as.
I would say describe me as calm, as fun, because I can be calm and fun, and inclusive is coming to mind.
I like that. And I asked that question because those words that you use to describe yourself or want other people to describe you as, we kind of see them popping up in your story, in your work, in how you describe the things that you do. And I think it's really interesting.
It is.
Yeah. So then tell us more about you, Ashley. What would you like to share?
So, in my business, I am an energy healer, Akashic record reader, and women's circle facilitator. So I came into these gifts, honestly. I did not go looking for them. They found me, and it's funny how that works sometimes. And what I do is I help clients one-on-one really dig into where the blocks are within them and remove them, help them find more clarity, help them guide them and give them more direction. And in my circles and ceremonies, I really love bringing women together. Connection and community is really the foundation of a lot of what I do. And so when women get together, honestly, magic happens. And that's what happens in our ceremonies and circles, is really creating that safe and nurturing space for women to be able to show up as their own selves, whatever that looks like, and know that they are in a safe space to do so in doing their own healing process through it.
That sounds lovely, because it sounds like the opposite of my personal experience in high school. I talk a lot about rejection, and I didn't know that one of my big rejection stories was my girlfriends in high school rejecting me because I started hanging out with boys.
Mm.
And so, like, a lot of the times I didn't know until a few months ago that I had this resistance of being in circles of women, groups of women, where it was just, we're going to support each other, when I never really had that experience. So what are you feeling from groups like this?
Yeah, a lot of the women that come into my groups are exactly the way you're feeling.
I figured there was more like me. That's the only
It's like women, like out in the world, women are mean to each other.
Yeah.
Like, really, they are, which is terrible. We see it. I see it through the clients that come through in the workplace, in corporate. I work a lot with women in corporate, and it's women are mean to each other, trying to climb that ladder where there's only so many spots at the top, and really kicking anyone off that's going to get in your way. And so when women are coming in, they are resistant to open up. It is a big trust. It is building a lot of trust. I host a monthly Savvy Sisters Circle that was launched in 2021. And all of the women that joined in 2021 have stayed in this circle. So, I mean, that says something for the trust that we can build. So we haven't had quote unquote turnover in the circle, really. We've invited more women in, but the core women who started when I launched this circle are still in the circle almost 2 years later. And each month we build on that trust, and we build on creating that safety and security for these women, and teaching them, giving them these tools that they can then adapt to their everyday life. So take back to their corporate jobs, take back to their families, take back to whatever situations that they're dealing with in life.
Aw, I love that. And I love that you did call out that I know I'm not the only one. And then we tend to describe ourselves as just, we were always one of the guys.
Right.
Where I don't get along with other women.
Yeah.
There's always those stories. So I love hearing that it's possible, ladies.
It is possible. There is a nurturing and a safe community out there for you.
So why did you get into this kind of healing and Akashic records and just that safety? Why this kind of work?
I think probably because I was looking for it at some point in my life. Don't we all get into this work because we work through it ourselves, right?
I too, yeah.
And I was looking for that safe and nurturing community, and I tried to go it alone for many, many years. I, thought if I read all the books and listened to all the podcasts and tried to quote unquote fix myself, that I would just figure it all out on my own, because that was always me. I'd figure it out on my own, and I didn't need anyone's help.
Yeah.
I didn't want anyone's help. And the more I tried to do it alone, the more confused I got, the more isolated I found myself being, the more I beat myself up. Like, I really beat myself up a lot. Like, even when I started my meditation practice, like, I read the books on how do you meditate, and it's like, meditation for dummies. Really? Is there a book for that? I mean, like, and trying to be the perfectionist even in meditation. And I would start and stop that practice many, many times, because I'm like, I'm not doing it right. This isn't how this person said I was supposed to meditate. And I would start and stop. And it wasn't until I decided to really just sit down and be like, well, what works for me? Forget what everybody else is doing. What really works for Ashley? And that's when the first time that I actually meditated and created a practice that stuck. And now I'm meditate every day. And now, and I change it up, and it's okay. I might do the same meditation for a week. I might do the same meditation for a month, and then I might change it up. I might change it up daily. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, because it matters on what is true to you, what works for you, and go with that, and don't worry about what other people think. So I think I got into this work, answering your question, is because I was out looking for all the things and I wasn't finding them. And it wasn't until I found my community that I realized that there are women out there that are needing healing, connection, and community, and really just giving them the permission slip that it's okay just to be, right?
Ooh. See, now that sounds like a marketing thing where you have this free permission slip for women where they can download it, write their own name in it. Oh, that sounds fun. I remember you sharing at the beginning that you were into Akashic Records. Now, we had another lady talking about Akashic Records, but we also understand that not everyone does it the same way, just as you were talking about with meditation.
Yeah.
Or knows what it is. Or knows what it is.
Or,
so,
yeah.
Right? There could be people listening today. And it's funny, I had pretty much never heard of Akashic Records at all. And then I got into Corey's group, and now I know, well, I'm pretty sure everybody reads Akashic Records, don't they? Like, it feels like that. It's not true, but I think I know 8 or 9 of the people in the Blue Talk Circle Business Licensing Universe that understand and know and utilize Akashic Records. So for those that don't know what Akashic Records are, could you perhaps share a little bit about that?
Sure. So think of Akashic Records, because you are human, you have a soul. And because you have a soul, you have an Akashic Record. And think of them as a metaphysical library of all the experience your soul has experienced, past, present, and future possibilities. And so what is housed in the Akashic Records is infinite on your soul's expression, your soul's experience. The Akashic Records are housed in the Pleiadian energy and the Pleiadian starseed energy. And that is when a channeler or reader opens up the Akashic Records, that is where we are connecting to, is that Pleiadian energy and channeling through that. Yeah. So that's what the Akashic Records are. I got into the Akashic Records back in 2020. And it again, with all of my spiritual gifts that I practice with now, really found me. I did not go looking for them. And so it was one of those things where it would keep popping up in my peripheral vision, right? Like it'd be on a podcast or someone would talk about it or whatever. And I'd be like, yeah, okay. I didn't wake up one day and say I was going to be a channeler and an energy healer and bring women together. Like, for those of people in my world that knew me before this time, I was the furthest thing from woo-woo. Like, nobody was going to call me weird. I was perfectionist. I was practical. I was organized. I worked the corporate stream in my full-time job.
All of the above.
And all of the above. And when it all started coming in, I felt like when I finally surrendered and said, yes, okay, everything came in like a freight train. And I had no idea what to do with any of this. I was like, oh my God, what just happened? What did I just say yes to? And the Akashic Records was one of those things. The energy healing came first. And the more I practiced that, the more opened up for me. And so I realized that through all of this, that I have already been a healer. I've been a healer in past lives. And so what was coming back to me was this remembering of what I have done in past lives, is the best I can explain it. And why it was so confusing is because it came in so easily, and I was doing things and I couldn't quite I couldn't explain it. And so it was it was just natural for me, which freaks out the perfectionist, right? It's like, you need to have a book on this. You need to figure this out. Like, this just doesn't come to you like this, So then I questioned it. I stayed if you will, I stayed in the spiritual closet for a really long time.
Mhm.
Because again, anyone that knew me knew that this isn't what Ashley did. This is like not what she did. Like, you know, I started my career in politics. Like I worked with the top political gurus of this country, right? So it's like, she not like, I don't channel, right? Like this was so far from Parliament Hill, like so far. And so it took a lot. I remember one of my mentors one time said, this is your life path, and it's going to take a lot of spiritual gumption for you to like break through this shield, this protection that you put around yourself. And so the Akashic records came in, and I was already in my own Akashic records without even knowing I was in there before I channeled for other people.
Mhm.
And my, you know, logical brain said, you need to take a course on this because you need to be, you know, people need to take you serious. Even though my soul was like, you've done this for many times. So I did. I went and I took the course, and didn't really make any difference in the way I approached it. But it's like, it's that, you know, that conditioning that you have to have the piece of paper, right?
Yep.
When spirit, yeah, but spiritual gifts don't come with papers.
Yeah.
They're already within you. And everybody's intuitive. So we all have our own spiritual gifts that you don't need to explain to other people, that you don't need to have that piece of paper. That's just what society has told us we needed to do.
That's an important piece too, isn't it? Because we live in a world that we've created, manufactured, or whatever, where people expect you, I will trust you if you have a piece of paper, because then you've read a book and you went to a school, and therefore I can trust you. And it's interesting to help people realize that there's more than just that. Yeah. And I know for myself too, I've been a personal trainer for 25 years. And yes, I got a piece of paper a long time ago to say that, but some of the things that I knew, I didn't know how I knew. And I just knew them. And then I would find out later that, oh, okay, it's good that I knew that, because it's actually a thing. And Aaron's bugging me, says I got a hair out of place. So let me just fix that.
I know, I'm laughing at
he's streaming with a bunch of fun comments. I can't text back to LinkedIn, but Aaron, I hear you, buddy. So it's fascinating to bridge that gap between those two worlds, because there are people that they're not open to things like Akashic records and spirit, and yet it's like this subterranean energy flow that surrounds everything, and you can not be aware of it, but it's still there.
100%.
And to me, it's exciting to plug into it and go, ooh, like there's just more. Because I have my coach, Rosalind Fung. She's my one of my coaches, and she does Akashic records. And in the summer, I was in a place of I do my own thing. So I coach people on nutrition and fitness and stuff. And economically, it was okay. It was kind of limping along. And then a friend said, hey, why don't you join this company and you can do phone sales and Zoom sales, and we're all making $10,000 to $15,000 a month. And I was like, well, that sounds good. I could use that. So I said, okay, I'll give it a shot. And I would be selling fitness programs for a big guy in the States. And then it wasn't long before I realized they were completely out of integrity. It was bait and switch. It was manipulative. It was, I just, all of a sudden I hated working. I hated what I was doing. I felt ugly. It was awful. And I knew I needed to quit and stop and just, but I also needed the money, but I was at war. And Rosalind jumped into the Akashic records and she's like, oh my God, your guides are screaming for you to quit. And I was like, oh, good, because I'm quitting. And it was like permission.
Yeah.
Right. And I think if we can just tap into that extra level, whether you believe it's there or not, it's still there. Right.
Yeah. We're all energetic beings. So we're made of energy.
Yeah. So talk a little bit about that, if you would, because you were really in the stuffed shirt world.
Yeah,
Right? You were in full stuffed shirt world.
totally.
And now you're completely, as you said, woo woo. How do you bridge that with some people?
Yeah.
I find that many people are more open to it now, right?
Mhm.
I think the pandemic has awakened many people in a lot of ways, and has made people realize that the way I was working in 2019, 2020, I don't want to do that anymore. I don't want to be that person, but I don't know how to be this person. So help me figure this out. And that's where the kind of the click comes. And that is like they are awakening. They're awakening to the possibilities of what's possible. And so I find that more people come to me because they know they have this inkling, because we're all intuitive. We all have an inner guidance. It's just a matter of, are you tapping into it? And if you are tapping into it, are you listening to it? Right?
Yeah.
That's the key. The key is, because we are 100% guided every moment of every day, every single moment. And it is up to us to silence the noise and tune in. Because I bet you, Scott, if you tuned in, you would have got your own answer.
Oh, I knew the answer. I wasn't willing to admit it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
I was
you weren't
trying
willing to trust
Yeah.
the answer that was coming through, right? And so what the Akashic Records does, which is this is a really great example, is it confirms what you already know, right? So a lot of people will come to me and they're so confused, and they truly, when they tap in, they know the answers. It even happens to myself too. And you go to someone like an Akashic record reading or a psychic medium or whoever can tap into the higher dimensions, and they will often, the guides that will come through will give you the exact same answer that you already knew.
Yeah.
So it's confirmation.
It's almost giving you permission.
It is.
Because I knew for 2 months I needed to quit. I knew that was out of integrity. That wasn't me. But I kept going, yeah, but your family needs the money. Like, we're broke. We got bills to pay. Like, you have to do this because your family needs money. And I kept rationalizing it that way. And my soul died every day I had to do that job. And I knew I had to quit. I knew I had, but then I had that session with Rosalind, and she tied into the Akashic Records. She's like, "Oh my God, they're screaming for you to quit." I was like, "Okay, good." And then I was so done. It was beyond instant. Like, honestly, they fired me at the same time as I quit. Like, I couldn't wait to leave. What's fascinating though, is when I trusted that Akashic Records and the spirit and all what I was really supposed to be doing. Once I jumped back into that and immersed myself in it, I have made more money every single month helping people and doing what I love since then. I've by a landslide.
Because you aligned with your soul purpose.
Yeah. It's been phenomenal. And I think it's hard to convince people of that because, and I know one of my first moments like this is when I quit my 13-year career in architecture to go be a personal trainer in a gym. And everybody was like, you're doing what? You're just about an associate partner. You're going to get benefits and options and security and stability and dental and medical and and you're going to leave that to be a trainer. You're going to get nothing. I'm like, yep, I'm leaving. And it was, I knew my soul knew what I needed to do, and my life has been amazing because of it. But it's to have that leap of faith is not easy.
It's not, and that's where the support comes in, right? Because oftentimes, especially women, we're not trusting. It all comes back to the trust, right? So bridging that, I find, since the pandemic, more women have come out from corporate and said, I can't do this anymore. I don't know what to do. I know there needs to be a shift, but I just don't know what. And then it's just through talking and seeing where they're at and what they need. Do they need an energy clearing? Do they need to like get rid of some old conditioning? Usually, yes, everyone has conditioning they need to get rid of.
Yeah.
Do they want to tap into their Akashic records? Some people are actually terrified to tap into higher dimensions because yeah, and because there's also been this perception that, you know, it's dark or it could be scary, and what are we going to find in there? But I will tell you all that tapping into something like the Akashic records is full of unconditional light and love.
That's what scared me off.
That it was full of unconditional light and love?
The first time I went into my Akashic records, it was with Emily Harrison, which we also interviewed here. And I only made it to the front door, and all of these guides are coming out and like family members and stuff. And they're all giving me so much love that I was like, I'm out. And then I left. And so now I can feel it. I am scared of entering because I know it's so beautiful and so expansive and so powerful in there that I don't really want to show up, because then I feel like there's this expectation of me to be that powerful, loving, expanded version. And I don't trust myself to maintain that, I guess, is where the fear is. So I'm like, it's cool. I want to be there, but I also want to hide.
But Laura, there's no expectation. They have zero expectation.
Yeah.
And they're just there to support and love you.
I know.
And then it's like, what do you want to then do with that support and love? There's no expectation.
The story continues, because when I went to Harvard this summer to talk, on my way back, like there was so much personal growth this summer that I crashed for 5 weeks because of the spiritual growth. Nobody tells you about the spiritual
your nervous system has to recalibrate.
But then when I got out of that spiritual crash, it felt like all of these spiritual guides just came into my mind like it was a house, and then started putting their clothes in all the drawers and opening the doors and choosing which bedrooms are theirs. And I'm like, wait, what? Like, you didn't even knock. You just walked in and moved in.
So they will do that. And it's up to you to invite them or tell them to leave. So it's all you have to do. So you're creating boundaries with your own spiritual team to say, no, not right now. Please don't wake me up at 3 a.m. with a download. I need my sleep. Like it's up to us, because you kind of opened that portal, if you will, this summer.
Yeah.
And without having someone to guide you onto what to do when that portal opens, like it's okay to set boundaries with them. Then you're just an open book. You are walking around. No wonder you crashed for 5 weeks, because your energetic field is like wide open and you're just letting everything in. Right? So that's why you crashed. You need to protect your energy. You need to cleanse your energy. I do this daily, if not a few times a day, because we're energetic beings. We, the three of us, and whoever's watching this, we're all exchanging energy right now. You're getting my energy. I'm getting your energy. Whether it's good or bad, we're still getting each other's energy. And unless at the end of the day, we cleanse our energy, or at the beginning of the day, we protect our energy, then we are going to be constantly, social media is another place that we take on energy, the news, anything we're consuming, because we are energy. We're going to take it on unless we create boundaries and learn how to cleanse and protect your energy. That is so key, especially right now where we're in such a consuming world.
And one of the things that I started doing during COVID is, before COVID, I would go to the grocery store, I'd do my shopping, random strangers would come up to me and they'd say one comment. Sometimes it was, I like your earrings, or I love your shirt, or just something very simple. Before I knew it, we would spend an hour together. They would tell me their life story and they'd end up crying in my arms. Then when COVID hit, I could just feel so much negativity everywhere around me that I didn't understand quite how to protect myself at that point. So the only thing I knew how to do was put headphones on and listen to my favorite music. And then I could do my best to tune out most of it and keep myself in this point where I could continue on my day. But there's so many different ways to do it.
Yes.
So many. Yeah.
Protecting your energy.
What would you coach through that, Ashley? Because I know I lost a really good friend of mine to cancer. He was a chiropractor, and to me, he was always an intuitive chiropractor. Like, he was next level. He wasn't just like figure 4 from the top rope, this one, that one. Okay, next patient. He was very, very, he would put hands on and he would feel, it was almost like he was listening to your body and see what's going on. And then just a little adjustment. And then he would feel, it was like a slow motion chiropractor. It was phenomenal. And cyclist and stuff. And he was doing the pre-ride for the tour to Georgia. And all of a sudden he wasn't feeling good and had no energy, went to the doctor and they're like, yeah, you need to go home right now. And he had just cancer of the everything. And he was gone in no time at all. And I really felt with him that with all of his patients, it was like he took on all of their schmutz, but he didn't ever get rid of it, or he didn't know how to protect himself from absorbing it. He was just like one of the greatest humans alive. And for him to, but so how do we do that? How do we protect ourselves? Because you're a little bit empathic, and I think, Laura, for sure, and I know on myself I am too. It's so easy to take that on. Like, if I have clients that are struggling in their world, I want to help them so badly. I just want to take it on for them, and you can't do that.
No, we're not here to save anyone. That was one of my biggest lessons when I first started. I wanted to save everybody. And I had a client the other day, and he, 62-year-old man, and he has lived with his own gifts and never share them with anybody. And this man is like highly intuitive, but he wants to save the world. And I coached him through, like, you can't save the world. That's not why you're here. You're here for expansion and growth of your own soul. But how I would coach someone through how to cleanse and protect is cleansing your energy is something as simple. So if you're seeing clients and you're seeing clients in person, washing your hands between clients. I know we wash our hands between clients, just washing our hands, but intuitively washing your hands. So washing your hands between clients with the intention that you are releasing and washing any energy that is attached to you during that session, that meeting, that anything that does not belong to you. And what we want to do with that energy is we want to send that energy somewhere. So where we send that energy is we send it back to Mother Earth because it's going down. And we want to send it to Mother Earth because she, as wonderful as she is, has the ability to transmute that energy back into light and love. So what we're doing is we're getting rid of excess energy from us that doesn't belong to us, but we are transmuting it into something of a higher level frequency. And how to protect your energy is simply just sitting and envisioning that there is this blanket around you. You can envision it to be white light. You can envision it to be connected to source, but just protecting you from the top of your head to the bottoms of your feet, and just saying something as simple that may this blanket of white light protect me from any energy that is low vibrational or negative from entering into my energetic field. And may the only energy allowed into my field is that of the highest frequency of love and light. And that's all you have to do. So it's just having the intention. Even if you just sat there and just visualized a white blanket or a white light around you, and that was it. And that is one way that you can protect your energy.
I knew my cat would come in with that. She's like, Mom. Yes. Two kind of comments on that. First one was, I created a love bubble of like golden sparkly light because I know that once sparkles touch something, you can never get rid of them. So I'm like, if I imagine this golden sparkly paintball of golden light around me, which is love, energy of pure love, then whenever people would bounce their negative energy off of me, I didn't have to have it stick to me and have that weight just cling constantly to me all the time. And so now it can bounce off and I give it back because they can't heal that if I'm keeping it. I have to give it back to them. I learned that. But now it has a little bit of sparkly golden paint on it and it has this much more love than it did before. So every time they bounce it off, it's being covered more and more in that light. Second comment on that was you had mentioned that you want to send that negative energy to Mother Earth. Question is, when I had invited in the energy of Mother Earth before, she was not a separate entity. Like, I felt every cell of my body as a part of Mother Earth. There was no separation. I could not separate it, whereas every other energy was separate. But Mother Earth was a part of me, and then I started growing like flowers and vines and stuff out of every single one of my cells. It was beautiful. So then if I'm not being able to like take myself apart from Mother Earth, do I still send that to Mother Earth, or like where would I send that? So that's not me.
You could just transmute it anywhere. I tend to transmute it to Mother Earth. You can transmute it out to the universe and just have the universe take care of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this was another word that bugged me for a long time. What does the word transmute really mean? Like, what are we doing?
You're taking something that could be of negative and you're changing it. So transmuting is like changing it into something beautiful.
So am I just imagining it, or does something happen?
You don't have to think about it. You're using this too much, Laura.
I know, but these are some of the questions I'm getting from other people.
Yeah. You just have to have intention. All of this is just having intention. You don't have to think about where that energy is going. You don't have to think about how it's transmuting. You don't have to think about all the cranks that are churning for it. You just it's all with intention and trusting that it is done. It is all. It is done.
It is done.
It's an interesting thing that you mentioned, Laura, that I think is worth exploring. It's kind of when you have clients and stuff, and I see people in person for nutrition and strength training and all that kind of stuff. And once in a while you'll get somebody that comes along, and I think it's like you said, Laura, they say, well, listen, I have all of these problems. I don't like this and I hate that, like that. I'm ugly and it's gross and I feel terrible and I eat junk food and I smoke and I drink and I sit and watch TV all day and I don't do anything useful. Here.
Yeah.
And then
they're unloading it on you.
And I have to be careful because if I'd be like, I didn't want this. And then they go, oh, I feel so much better. And then I feel good that they feel better. But then I'm like, well, what do I do with this? I don't. So there's a piece of that, isn't there? About being a healer, being a coach, being like that. Let's talk about that, Ashley.
Yeah, I think it goes back to you can't save them. They need to meet you in the middle. They need to be willing to take responsibility for their own life. And taking responsibility is their pathway to freedom. You're not their pathway to freedom. They're their pathway to freedom. So taking radical responsibility for how they got here and not deflecting it is also part of their path to freedom. So if they want to be over here, whatever their goals are, well, they need to be responsible for that as well. No, we lost Scott.
I think he needed to do something behind the scenes. Either way, I always have lots of questions. So then, Ashley, what are some of your favorite things that you're working on right now?
Well, right now I'm working on a ceremony for the winter solstice, which coming up on December 21st.
I forgot about the solstice.
Yes.
I've
Yeah.
been attracted to the solstices for the last couple years, and I feel like it's pulling me. Partly because one of my favorite book series, they talk about the solstice, and my daughter's named after one of the characters that played the Sun Princess.
Oh,
Yeah. So I'm
nice.
like, there's something about it where it's just this celebration of, oh my God, the days are getting longer again. Yes.
Yes. But it's also an opportunity to celebrate all of your growth and expansion from the entire year and letting go of what it is that you don't want to carry into the next season. So it's a really beautiful time of year to go inwards because it is the darkest night of the year.
Yes.
It's really an opportunity inviting us to go inwards and really, examine the last year, examine and also celebrate the growth, right? Women also don't love celebrating themselves. And so it's an opportunity to celebrate. And so I'm working on that. That's coming up as well.
That sounds exciting.
Yeah.
You might want to be a part of that one.
I'll send you the details.
Yes, please.
Yeah. Yeah.
My internet hiccuped for a second, and I was worried you guys all disappeared, but I was like, oh no, everybody's still here. They're still chatting. It must have just been me somehow.
I thought you were just helping like tech issues behind the scenes. It's like, we got this.
It went go.
We're still live.
Anyway, so that is fantastic. So we got a few more minutes left.
Okay.
And Ashley, what's your favorite way to work with people? Like you were just talking about the 21st with the darkest day of the year. What does it look like to work with you? Do you do retreats? Is it Zoom calls? Is it phone calls? It is in person? Tell us about that.
So my favorite way to work with people is in community, is bringing women together in ceremony and circles. And I did say I do have a monthly virtual circle that I launched in 2021 with guidance from my spiritual team. When that came in 2021, they said now more than ever, women are looking for connection and community, and you need to create this. And so that's where the circle came from. And it is still going. It'll be 2 years in January, which I can't even believe. And then I am doing, I'll do one-off ceremonies. I have one coming up in the winter solstice. And I also host cacao ceremonies as well. And I started doing that this summer, again, with very direct guidance from my spiritual team on when and where to host these.
So cacao, like chocolate cacao?
Yeah, it's like drinking chocolate, but it's a heart-opening plant medicine, and it's beautiful. And I love this ceremony so much because I pull people through meditation and an energy healing cleansing session, and just really preparing their body, mind, and spirit to receive the cacao, because it's a very sacred plant medicine. And it really brings women together in such a sacred space that allows for this beautiful healing to take place in a very short amount of time. And just connecting with other women and sharing. And so I do offer those. I started offering them privately, so in a way to get women to get their soul sisters together to really connect in. So that's been really beautiful as well. And then my energy healing and Akashic record readings, I do those one-on-one via Zoom. And so even pre-COVID, I was already, majority of my business was online, because it just allows the ability not to put boundaries on your anything, so you can reach as many women as need it, or that need you. Or who are drawn to you for healing and energy work.
That's awesome. So how do people reach you for that?
So I have a website, sayorsaessentials.ca, and Sayorsa is Gaelic for freedom, which is a nod to my lovely Scottish heritage from the East Coast, Laura.
Oh, that's fantastic. They're the wee Scots. That's
yes.
great.
Yes.
Is it .com or .ca, did you say?
.ca. And I'm on there. I'm on Instagram at Ashley McIsaac Butler, just how it's spelled. And on Facebook as well, a private Facebook group and a Facebook page. So I'm on all the social platforms.
Nice.
Where did you say that you were from? You did mention the East Coast, but where are you located?
Cape Breton.
You're in Cape Breton?
Yeah. Well, I'm in Ottawa, but I'm originally from Cape Breton.
Oh.
Yeah, I know.
Right now, are you in Cape Breton for the holidays?
I'm in Ottawa. I'm in Ottawa. My heart is in Cape Breton, though, Laura.
Wait, what part of Cape Breton? I don't remember.
The West Coast.
Oh, yes. Okay. Because my family's from the East Coast.
Yes. The West Side, I should say.
It's like all of my family down there.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm just trying to make sure I get the spelling of your website correct.
Yeah.
Oh, I know. It's a hard one.
Yeah. Having fun with the word Sarosa. So, but I'm getting there. I'm going to post it on all the things. But
perfect.
Awesome. So this has been really great.
Is there anything else that you wanted to share with us before we say goodbye?
No, this has been a really fun conversation. I just want to say thank you both for making my afternoon so fun.
Yeah.
This has been a treat. And I look forward to the next bLU Talks event. I will be doing my bLU Talks at UCLA in February.
Yay!
So
congratulations.
Working on that as well. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
Awesome. I hope to do more bLU Talks, but all these things.
Yeah.
All these things.
One thing at a time. Yep. There you go.
Well, this has been fantastic. We need to head off, and we've also got to connect with our next guest, which I don't have her backstage, but actually it's been lovely to speak with you. And I think it's really fun to learn a bit about your journey and how you're changing the world.
Perfect. Thank you so much to both of you.
You're welcome. Have an amazing day.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, so we've got one more guest to go.
She's like, I don't think I'm in the right place.
We are working on getting our next guest, our final guest, Donna, into the studio. So that's always the fun part.
Paste.
Yeah.
There, I sent her the link again.
Yep, I see that. Perfect. The magic of technology. Well, that was really neat. I'm always fascinated. There are so many people I've met now that are into Akashic records and stuff, and I just keep learning more and more about it each next time, and it's pretty profound and interesting stuff.
I'm definitely feeling this this season of self-reflection, which I think I mentioned once or twice this week. But I also feel like before the new year, it's going to switch over between this like complete focused study of self-reflection and self-trust and building all of that to be, once the solstice happens, just this, okay, now that I think I've done the self-reflection work, let's talk to my guides. Let's figure out what my gut is saying and my intuition, and kind of have that guidance so that come the new year, when we tend to do New Year's resolutions, I don't go, oh, I want all of these amazing things that are 10 steps beyond where I am, and go, here's my next step. This is my goal. This is what I'm working on. Because you have that experience too, Scotty. The new year comes, people make these horribly huge New Year's resolutions, and then they fail, and they're like, oh, why did I fail? Or they stop after a week or two.
Yeah, it's a very interesting part of our culture and stuff, New Year's resolutions and goals and things, and it's fascinating. And obviously there's a part of it I love, which is that it's a bigger audience that's looking for me as a nutrition coach and a trainer. They're looking for me for January, February, which is really cool. The challenge is to teach them that the reason they're looking for me is not what they thought it was.
Yeah.
Right. Or it's bigger than that, or different than that, or more profound than that. So that becomes the interesting thing, because if I can show people to take their New Year's resolution of, I want to drop 20 pounds, whatever, but make it to, what if I could teach you to be a different person and have different habits so that dropping 20 pounds was just a side effect of being a different person? So that doesn't have to be the goal. You can't tell people like, hey, is your New Year's resolution to be a better person and to change your habits and integrate? Like most
so
people,
few people that relate to that.
yeah, most people aren't going to align with that. But if you say you drop 20 pounds, oh, okay, great. That's what I want.
So then maybe you rephrase it and you're like, how would you like to drop 20 pounds as a side effect of something even better?
Yeah.
And then they're like, oh, what is this better thing that's dropping 20 pounds? Because then you might have that conversation of, well, why do you want to drop the 20 pounds?
100%. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
What if dropping 20 pounds was so easy, it just happened as a side effect of all these other changes? So, yeah. So that's cool. So it's an exciting time regardless. New Year's is still an exciting time. And I'm happy to say that Donna has made it into the back.
Oh, okay, good. I just keep seeing dots.
Yeah, technology is a blast at the best of times. So let's add Donna in as our final guest today. Hello.
Hi, Donna.
Hello. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Welcome.
Thank you.
Good to have you here on Blue Talks Amplify Your Message.
Yes.
So how can we amplify your message today? And I know Laura has this great question she's been asking everybody. So I'm gonna let her make your brain bend first.
Yes. I do have a lot of fun with this because I love seeing the patterns of it. So Donna, the last few days I've been asking people to please describe themselves using 3 words. And I know that's hard. So here's the second part. If that's too hard, what 3 words would you love other people to use to describe you?
Well, I would say creative, inspiring, and I want to say radiant.
Ooh, I like that one. Because it's really fun. Because then these 3 words of creative, radiant, and fun.
Inspiring.
Sorry?
Inspiring.
Sorry, inspiring. I added fun in my head. Sorry, we're going to add fun.
I'm that too.
Then it's fun to see how those words integrate themselves into the way that you talk about who you are and your work and your message and why you choose to amplify the message the way that you do so. I think that's really interesting to see how that all connects.
Laura, I love that opening question. I love it. Because, I have all these great words that I've learned over, I want to say, the past few years. When I went to, and originally when I asked myself, who am I? It was a mother, a daughter, and I really didn't know who I was.
No.
And now I could go on, and it's just so beautiful. And you have to get out of that stigma of, it's okay to rave about yourself, to yourself. And so it's a little sometimes uncomfortable for us to talk about how, how we perceive ourselves out loud. So that was great. Thank you.
Well, that's exactly why I asked the question, because I went through that too. It's like, well, who is Laura Lake? And I don't mean my entire life. I mean today.
Right.
Because Donna 5 years ago is not the same Donna as today. Donna 5 years from now, what does she look like? Right. How do I show up today to help embody that as much as I can and practice it for the next 5 years? So 5 years from now, I am that. And so that question I used to ask, and so I describe myself as playful, luminary, and a change maker. Because I used to use all the roles just like you did. It's like, I'm a mom, I'm a wife, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm this and that. But that doesn't really describe us. Not at all. So then, Donna, how would you describe yourself beyond the 3 words? Like, how would you like to share with us? Who is Donna?
I would like to share that through my transformation, I don't want to say I found my purpose. I feel like my purpose found me. And that I use these words to awaken compassion in our world.
And I love words, don't you?
Oh, I love the word amplify, because that is really what I am here to do, to radiate the highest frequencies of love. And the highest frequencies of love is a book that I wrote with how I went from, this dark, rolled up in a ball in the corner type of place where I wasn't helpful to myself. I couldn't show up for myself or my son, who really needed me, and was able to flip that switch of thinking and ask the empowering questions and raise my frequency. And then I figured out how I did that. And it's not rocket science, and it's not anything new. It's ancient, actually. But yeah, so I feel like I know that what I'm doing is I'm helping people through speaking, through my courses, through my books, as a facilitator, to teach people how to raise their frequency.
So important. So what is it about raising our frequency that's so important to you?
Raising our frequency is a way to keep our thoughts elevated and hold yourself, I want to say, thinking and acting in a certain way, so that we're going to, as more people raise their frequency, I actually have it to the 528 hertz, the frequency of love.
Yeah.
That will help dissolve and diminish a lot of the acts of neglect, acts of violence, just people, anger and judgment. So raising your frequency is going to take you out of that, or at least have you become aware of it until you change your habits, because that takes practice. So it's changing the habits of, being aware of your thoughts and actions. And it really all begins with forgiveness of yourself and others, and self-love. So as we globally raise our frequency, the world will be able to begin to heal.
And in walks the therapy kitty, who's like, Mom, lay down, please. Thank you. This whole discussion of love and the frequency of love, I can't remember who described it to me like this, but all of the emotions below love are generally expressed because there is a lack of love or a longing for love. I went, because every time we were doing emotional healing, and you would start with guilt or shame or frustration or whatever it happened to be, you would always, well, what's underneath that? What is underneath that? What is underneath that? And you'll notice that those negative emotions switch to a positive emotion. And usually love is at the root of that. You're like, oh, so I was acting out because I was wanting attention, because I wasn't feeling loved. And really, I just wanted love. Well,
right.
Dang.
Right. It's true. And people we're just on autopilot so often that we let every thought just enter.
Yeah.
Every thought we just let enter, and then every thought creates a feeling, and every feeling is you're either gonna react to or respond to, which is gonna dictate your behavior, which are the results we get in life. Exactly. So when people can understand that every word you speak holds energy and light. So if you think about that, you're either uplifting your vibration, your energy output, or you're dimming it. So I teach people to catch their words. Ooh. And that's part of the habit, is changing it. So, if that, even like, I don't even believe I don't even say there are bad people and good people. It's happy people and maybe miserable people, joyful people, sad people, hurt people,
Yeah.
and teaching people about judgment. You know, I didn't realize how much I used to judge people until I started being aware of it. And once you're aware of it, now I can catch it and stop it.
So how do you help people with that awareness piece of knowing that it's happening so that they can stop it?
Well, a lot of people initially aren't even aware that they have control over their thoughts. They're not even aware of it. So it's huge. It was a game changer for me. It's amazing. And understanding too, about your paradigms. For me, that was great relief because I was like, oh, I didn't do all this by myself. I'm not this big hot mess because, I did it all to myself. I understood that it was a belief, conditioning that I grew up with, a lot of it, the way, the limitations and the boundaries. And now I literally, whenever I have any uncertainty or fear, oh, wow, I just say, Donna, that's your paradigm. That's your mental conditioning. And I can plow right through it, which is obviously really been another, I call it the magic maker, is when you really grasp that concept of, you're not who you think you are, a lot of it has to do with our mental conditioning.
Well, and it's interesting too. I think there's a lot of people that don't even realize you can question your thoughts and that you should and be mindful of them. And I found it fascinating. And it was interesting to see too during the last couple of years. And I don't want to swear by saying the C word, but the last couple of years where everybody kind of was all of a sudden isolated and alone. And when you did peek out at the world, it was negative, 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 negative. And you're left here to your thoughts, which, we have a design negativity bias where we're looking for danger. Our brain is designed to look out for danger. So all of a sudden you're alone with your negative thoughts all the time. And people think, well, that's just reality. And it isn't. It's something to be aware of, that you can and should be mindful of your thoughts and realize that thinking about positive things, what you would like to design, what you want your world to be, what's good about the world, what's great about the world, we need to feed those thoughts. We need to be aware of the negative things. Okay, great. That exists. If you dwell on it, it's a dangerous game.
Well, it's also causes sickness, from headaches to stomach aches. And if you stay in that state of mind for so long, then that becomes into depression, anxiety. But literally, for most of my life, I lived in reactionary mode. I lived in regrets and recycling the past and everything that, and I used to worry about everybody else. And I was the one who needed fixing, and it was just this great self-realization. And I made a conscious decision and would set intentions. And I have this whole, I want to say morning ritual or routine, evening routines that I do. Because I always say, one of my pieces of advice to people is always work on yourself before you go to work for anybody else. Even if it's, you're being a mom and have to get up and take care of the kids in the house and, always take care of yourself. And so having like a morning routine, implementing these habits, but we can literally, so I made a conscious decision to stop recycling and negative talk at nighttime. And I substituted the negative habits with new positive habits. So now I'm consciously aware when I would think about, and I was like, oh my gosh, I would do that every single night. And it's a horrible way to live.
Yeah.
And now I go to bed and I think I'm grateful for all the things that people I met, food I ate, anything like that. And then I expect things to go my way the next day, whatever I have coming up. And whatever the vibration we go to bed in is the vibration we wake up in. So that's why I was always exhausted and depleted, and because I'd go to bed all worried, and I would even make stuff up before it even happened. And then I realized a lot of people do that. You literally like fester over it so much, and you predict how it's going to come out, even though it hasn't happened. So you make up illusions, that make you sick, basically.
Yeah, this one of my old coaches a long time ago, he had said something, and I'll be paraphrasing because I don't remember it exactly, but it's something like, I've lived through 1,000 of the worst situations in the world, and 1 or 2 of them were actually real.
I love that. It's
Right?
true.
Oh my God.
It's funny. There's so many simple ways to do this too. And one of my favorites is a gratitude journal. 5 or 10 things at night that you're grateful or thankful for, or prayer. I mean, everybody has their different world, but for me, when I pray, it's all about gratitude and thankful and like that. And again, that's that setting that mindset, isn't it? Because if you go to bed thinking, oh, CNN said, and MSN said, and CBC said, and the world's coming, it's terrible. You go to bed with that energy. Ooh, that's not good.
Absolutely. And listening to the news, like you were saying, listening to the news at night, but also like, movies and TV shows that just aren't in alignment with, uplifting, that is also a way, to hold on to that negativity before you go to bed at night. But I feel that this, when I said radiant in answering your question when we first opened, so I literally, I want to say, breathed my heart back to life. And it was through these kinds of things, like you were saying, Scotty, like, gratitude, prayer. It brought me to my knees when my son came to me telling me he wished for disease to take his life. So, oh my gosh, blame, guilt, shame, curled up in a ball, like I said, like how, and then somehow, some way, I found myself at the beach and just had this beautiful meditative, that could be a whole show, but literally drew a big heart in the sand and wrote my son's name with his date of birth and help. Because I knew I needed help. It brought me to my knees at that point. And I didn't know how to show up. And I really couldn't show up at that point until then. And then I left there like not feeling like I was alone and that it was going to be okay. And I literally had this beautiful meditation of a cord going from my heart to my son's. And I visualized light and forgiveness and love pushing across this cord and into his heart and seeing him smile again.
Aww.
And that's how I want to be, not just for my son, but for everybody who I meet. I want to have that beam of light that just uplifts people. What if everybody had the intention that everybody that they encountered throughout the day, they left with a sense of increase. They left with them feeling better.
That sounds beautiful.
Yeah, it would have a much nicer world, right?
It's like I kind of have that intention that I never. Part of it is the past default of mental health issues like depression. I never want to be a burden on people, so that mindset is still kind of lurking in the background. But the forefront intention is I would love to leave people better than when I saw them.
Right.
And it could look different every day for each person, but there's still that intention there of, I just met you today, Donna. I'm hoping that this interaction has lightened up your world a little bit. I don't know. You're lighting up mine, but I'm yawning. I do apologize. I'm not yawning because I'm tired or we're boring. I actually yawned because I'm processing. So I went, there's some stuff that came up today that my body is processing and my mind hasn't quite caught up to yet. So.
Oh, I love that. And you know what? You're not the first person that I have a client that actually shared what you just said.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Good. I'm not the only one. And then when I yawn, I tear up. So then my eyes.
But But what I wanted to say, you made just a really good point right there where you said you don't want to burden somebody, right? So a big thing in our society, our paradigms, right? The way we were brought up.
Yes.
I used to feel like I had to do everything on my own. And like you, I would never want to ask for help.
Yep.
I would never want to ask for help. I always felt like I had to do everything on my own. But now with my new mindset, I want to say I introduced Donna to Donna.
Ooh.
Through these past few years. Well, it's been a whole life, but
Yeah.
but literally, I now say it's my responsibility to ask for help. Because what I'm doing is I am giving other people permission to ask for help. I'm giving my daughter permission to ask for help.
Yeah.
So when you flip the way you think of things, it's like, oh my gosh. Yeah. And look at all the people that don't ask for help and they end up, I'm sorry, Sky, go ahead.
No, it's just exciting. What you're saying is so great. And it's powerful. I think what people don't realize as well is when you ask for and accept help, you're giving a gift to the person helping you. And it took me a long time to realize that, because I grew up the way I grew up with all the things, but I was very independent and I'll do it myself. I can't rely on anybody. I can't depend on anybody. They're not going to take care of me. I have to take care of myself. I can't count on you, whatever. And so I grew up very independent, incredibly independent. And I would get into situations where I would really struggle and I would not ask for help because I'm like, I got to figure this out. I can't rely on anybody, can't depend on anybody. And I had people offering to help, capable of helping. And it took one of my mentors to go, you are ripping them off when you don't let them help and you're suffering. Just pause for a second. And I had this moment where I learned that. And all of a sudden I got to this place where I'm like, I do myself. And I was like, well, wait, I need help. And when I let people help me, not only was my whole life easier, but they felt great by being able to help me too, because they got to give.
And I love that. I love that. And it's so true. And, it does make you independent as well, but it's that line of knowing, you always want to try and do things, to the best of your ability. But when you do need help and you're suffering or your projects are taking longer, ask for help. People are there. They want to help. And I have this little phrase. I'm big on phrases because it's really what has helped me. I would always feel like the judgment. I would say observation is power. Judgment is weakness. So that would just stick with me. So whenever I was in judgment, I would be like, that would come to my mind. So another one with what we're talking about currently with, asking for help, I say, I willingly give and I graciously receive. So I can give somebody my time, my help, my expertise, but then also I graciously receive. And what a beautiful way, just to have these phrases, I feel that I'm tapped in and tuned into.
Yeah. As soon as you said that, you're like, my mind wanted to reject just a little bit, not as bad as it used to. I graciously receive. Graciously is like, I don't know if I'm there yet.
Well,
I'm working on that. But I do see the difference between, like, I love giving, and I don't ever want somebody to deny a gift that I'm trying to share with them, because that would feel really crappy. And I know that receiving is, if I don't receive, I'm basically saying no to their gift.
Well, actually, you're saying you're not worthy.
Ooh.
But also, it is. Yeah. Good.
I like how all the pieces kind of come together from these different areas. I'm not enough. I'm not worthy. Who am I to fill in the blank? Right. I love how all the pieces fit. Yeah.
But a lot of times people who don't, they feel like they don't deserve it, or you think you're putting somebody out.
Yeah.
Or they spent too much money.
Yeah.
All those things. because I used to tell my kids, oh, don't buy me anything for Christmas. Don't buy me that for my birthday. I have a, but they want to.
Yeah.
They want to, and it makes them feel good. And they know what I love. I love candles, and I love, and they always get the perfect gift. And I literally light up
Aw,
when they
that's
give me
what they
something,
want.
and that is so valuable.
Yeah.
What they have to offer matters. What they have to say matters. Otherwise we're saying, what you have to offer doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Those are the messages that people receive.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, you're kind of inadvertently stomping on somebody's heart.
But not intentionally.
Not intentionally, completely
Right.
by accident. But it's, yeah, and it's funny, especially this time of year. I bump into that a lot. Oh, don't get me anything. I don't need anything. I'm like, but I want to give you something because I love you. Like, it's not whether you need it, it's because I want to show my affection. It's nothing to do with, so because I can't just show up and give you nothing. That feels awful. But that's interesting because that was the request.
Right. Yeah. And then, you just have to go with your gut, I guess.
By the same token, don't give me Godzilla boxer shorts either, because that's not.
Okay, sometimes I love my husband enough to know that his favorite underwear are full of holes and he could use some new ones.
Right?
But then he does the same kind of thing for me. He knows that some of my favorite underwear are full of holes. But instead of buying me underwear, he's like, here's a gift card. Go buy the ones that
that's okay. It's all good. It's all good. No
the fun
judgment.
part is knowing what people love, like you said, Donna, and know when somebody gets you. Like last year for Christmas, my wife got me a food processor because she knows I love to cook. I love to hack recipes and make them healthier. I love to bake, and she got me a food processor, and it's one of my favorite gifts. But you think, who gets your husband a food processor? Well, if you have a husband that cooks, you do.
Right.
But she knew that.
And you know what? The whole non-judgment, I just want to make this point because I love this. I used to, my husband, because you talked about your wife a little bit and you did too, your husband. I used to, as I started this transformation, I would want him to start like doing stuff that I was doing. I want him to start meditating. I wish that he, I'm a big outdoor person and he's not so much. And, so I started wishing and saying, shut the TV, blah, blah, blah. Right. So then I finally I don't know where it was exactly. So I'm not going to, say where I heard this, but it so resonated with me and changed my life. And it was when we tell people what we don't like about them, or not even that we don't like about them, but what we want them to be like, that's actually the opposite of what we want to do, because we're pretty much telling them that I don't like you the way you are. I want you to change. And that vibrationally is very low.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I made, again, a conscious decision that he's on his journey and that I'm going to be the best version of me and do the things that I want to do, not limit myself because he doesn't want to do them with me.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I'm saying? So now it's just kind of like that ripple effect. I don't hound him about it. I don't make him feel bad, and it's great. Like, I never really thought of it that way. I'm literally basically telling him that I don't like you the way you are. And that wasn't my intention, but that's kind of what I was saying.
Yeah.
Well, my daughter's picked up on situations like that. And she would come up to me and she'd say, Mom, why does Dad act this way and you act this way about the same thing? So then we would have to have that conversation of, we're allowed to act differently. We have different belief systems. We have different mindsets. We're growing at different rates. We see things differently. And that's okay. It's okay where he's at. It's okay where I'm at. And it's okay if we never see eye to eye. But what's important is understanding that there's many different ways to see the same thing. And not everybody's going to be in the same place as you. But to just be open and understanding of what that looks like.
Right.
And so
that's
then,
okay.
so then, instead of asking at every single situation, she's like, oh, I already know. We're allowed to be different. That's okay.
I love it.
Yeah. But Donna, I really want to ask you,
Yeah.
excuse me, what is your favorite thing about the work that you do?
Mm-hmm.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
My favorite thing.
Or one of. I know there can be a few sometimes.
I love when people, like when I share what I'm talking about, and that it's like that bulb goes off for them. Cause I feel like it was yesterday, as things make a connection. And when people connect to that, that tool or that habit, it's really pretty heartwarming. And I feel like I'm, what I'm teaching matters and making a difference. And I consider myself a world changer. And I consider you both and Corey and everybody, world changers, people who are literally, waking up and making a difference, helping people. In my what I'm doing is helping people understand, their frequency and how to raise it. And it's literally raising your frequency is learning the skill of learning how to shift your mindset.
There we go. Where is it? Love is way up there at 500. There we go.
528.
Well, I want to jump into something, Donna, we've got 10 more minutes, but so one of the things I do in the background sometimes is I'll look up the person and try to find their website so that I can link it out so the whole world can see how to find you.
Yes.
And I just jumped in and I realized your book, it talks about autism.
Yes. So that's another whole thing. Oh my gosh.
Well, it rings bells for me. I have an autistic son. He has autism, ADHD, and Tourette's. So autism is a big deal for me. My wife and I went to a special school with him to learn how to parent a different mind. They say non-neurotypical, because he's phenomenal and creative and amazing and all of these beautiful things. And he doesn't mesh with society very well. So it's been so I would love to hear about your book and how you work with people and how that relates, please.
So I didn't have a plan to write a book, and I was asked to write this book. I was asked to write it, and I was asked to write it for parents, and I was asked to write it for parents with kids with children on the autism spectrum. I didn't know why I was being asked to write this because I don't have a child on the autism spectrum.
Okay.
I do have a stepson, but I wouldn't, I'm not the mother. So I was asked to write this, and for some reason I just accepted. And so it began. I went home and I wrote the table of contents. I literally was writing about these unconventional solutions, and it just poured out of me. All the doors have opened for me. I got a publisher right away. Then the publisher said, they said that this was really good, but it didn't have enough content to market it to the audience for parents with kids with autism. So they wanted me to take the autism component out. And I said, no. So I took my manuscript back. They said I was limiting myself because these tools were really for anybody, which they can be. They are. But then what happens? I get invited to mastermind groups and networking groups. And literally I have 12, including Jack, contributors globally, from doctors, therapists, speech, occupational therapists, educators, moms and dads who have flipped that switch of thinking. So what happened, it brought this book to a whole new level. It actually made international bestseller. And yes. And so it's my tool, like all these things that I was sharing with you. Some of the things I was sharing with you. And then the contributors shared an example or strategy, insight of how my tool, and applied it to like how it can benefit your child. So it's an amazing book. It's amazing. And it's really already how we've gone from that. It's like teaching people how to flip that switch of thinking, asking the empowering questions as opposed to the disempowering questions, and understanding that, you know, these kids are on a higher frequency.
Yes.
And part of what I teach is vibrational sensitivity and energy matching. So when these kids come into the world, and mom and dad, and like, again, there's no ill intention here, but mom and dad are struggling. They're sad. They're confused, maybe angry, frustrated, you know, all those emotions. These kids, these children are already feeling that they're broken, that they're not good enough, that they need to be different. There's something, right? So a big part of my book is also, it's a call to action for people to embrace and invite and get to know these kids. Because personally, I'll take 2 minutes. Personally, when I was writing this book, I needed help. And my friend, one of my best friends in my wedding, she had a 17-year-old son with autism. Now, Jack, I've known Jack my whole life. But other than saying, hi, how are you? I didn't really know him. I never, right? So when I needed help with this book, he sat with me and we went through the tools, and it was a mind-blowing, this unbelievable experience. And I went home that night and I said, wow, Donna, you have missed out. You have missed out on getting of Jack all these years. And I tried to figure out, why was there this disconnect between me and Jack? And it had nothing to do with Jack and everything to do with me. My fear of, well, would he talk? What would he say? Would he understand? Like, I went right to fear. And when I had the opportunity and the honor to sit with him, and I realized, wow, he has this, and kids with autism have this this natural ability for visualization. And that's a big part of, you know, so he was sharing some things with me, and, you know, it was just, and then I had some unconventional, the whole thing is a little unconventional in the sense of, it's not very clinical. Not very clinical. So I have chapter 11 is introducing lessons of the moon. And so Jack literally, his mom didn't think he would do it, but he did. And it was, you know, write a list of things that you want to get rid of, that you want, you know, to release in your life, that you don't want to have to deal with in your life. And he literally wrote them down. And then they went out at night to the moon for the full moon. Actually, it was the new moon. And he didn't share verbally, but he written them down. And then we had a little ceremony with we had a fire, and threw it in the fire, you know, so, you know, making resolution, or, you know, he, you know, seeing those just being burned and the particles going up into smoke, and he enjoyed it. And I asked him if he would do it again, and he said yes. And I asked if he thought it was helpful, and he said yes. So it was just that intention of being aware that these are things that you want to get out of your life. And then we did the same thing with the full moon. And his mom, what the funny thing was, is his mom, like, eventually he did share, but she didn't know what he wanted and what he didn't want. So it was great. He said that he wanted to drive. He wanted to go to college, but he thought that he wouldn't be able to. He's actually, it's just phenomenal. So awesome. I'm a big advocate, because I feel that these kids are here to help us heal this world. They've got and it's, and then I know I just get so, I work at the YMCA, and I'm a personal trainer, but I also work with cancer survivors. And got a grant, and I was asked to design a program for kids with autism, intellectually challenged individuals. And I called it Compelling Fitness. And each session started with intention setting, a short guided visualization, and activating the vagal nerve so that they could be more tapped in and tuned in to into the setting. Because I was trying to integrate the gym members and kids and, acceptance and all that, inclusion. And, not all the kids were verbal. And I didn't really know how I was but I was just like, okay, I'm going to figure this out. And you know what? The universal language. When you can pay attention and feel energy, when you get out of all the ego and all of the junk and clutter in our heads, that leaves room for you to really like tap in and tune into other people's energy. And it was just this amazing, beautiful, it really was. Yeah. It really was. We all kind of, it was just great. Everybody just accepted everybody for who they were. And understood each other. And even the other kids who could communicate, they went out of their way to like communicate with the other kids, which I didn't expect that. So it was just amazing. Yeah. So
that's awesome. So a couple of things. First of all, I just ordered your book.
Oh, yes.
I just like literally went, I'm like, oh, I'm so buying this book. I did. So it's coming. But I love this. It's fascinating. As a parent of an autistic child, my son did a 6-week intensive course or a program at a communications school for children that are non-neurotypical. And it's interesting. Family members, after paraphrasing, they asked, well, did you figure out what's wrong with your son? Or did you learn about what's wrong with your son? And I said, no, there's nothing wrong with my son. We learned how to be parents. Because we kept trying to fit him in a box. Well, children are this, children do that, children behave this way, they learn this way. He doesn't follow those rules. And we learned for 6 weeks how to be his parent. Yeah. He didn't change at all. But I'll tell you, when we changed, when we learned to see him, not as we thought children should be, but as who he is, everything in our world got easier and better and smoother. He became happier. School became like everything got better because we learned how to parent. He didn't change. And you're right. He's brilliant. His ability to draw and create and build and do Lego and draw things is off the charts. Like, he floors me on a constant basis with how he can express through drawing and coloring and Lego. But he doesn't fit in to the normal pattern. So it's about us understanding that rather than them conforming to us. It's fascinating.
It is fascinating. And they are our teachers. And that's what I told Jack afterwards. I said, wow, you have been quite a teacher for me. Yeah. And I paid him as a consultant because what he had to, this project was so important to me. And I really valued what he had to say. And yeah, it shed a whole new light for me, and I'm a big advocate. Awesome. Yes.
So Donna, we're a little bit over time, which I think is fine by me, but I put evokechangecenter.com as a way to connect with you. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. And so if your ideal client is listening to this live or on the replay, and they're like, do I want to work with Donna? So who wants to work with you, and what does that look like in the last minute here?
Oh, parents. I love to work with parents and help create more harmony and peace and a higher vibration in the home. Everything from, I see this also, I just want to add, because I do see this if anybody's listening. I see this in schools. This book, I'm having it, it's going to be, it's already brought into a course, and it's being submitted, or it is submitted. I'm waiting to hear back for continuing education credits. So my idea is to have this in schools for teachers to take for CEUs, teachers, principals, because these kinds of tools, like I said, they're not rocket science, And if we can implement auto suggestion in the classroom, I am strong, I can do hard things like after the pledge of allegiance or whatever, the routine is. My goal is to help lessen the bullying as well as, up to the school shootings, like accepting people for who they are, and learning how to live together. So from school teachers, parents, I do work with some, it's funny because I have some personal training clients who have kids with autism who have asked me to work with them for mindset. And I love working with these individuals, with these kids, and they just, I love it.
That is so awesome.
Thank you so much, Donna. I could feel your energy the entire time. You were definitely a bright light.
Oh, thank you. As you both are. Thank you.
Thank you so much for all that you do for the world. It's just such a gift. I love what we get to do with Blue Talks Amplify Your Message. We get to meet the coolest people doing the coolest things to make the world a better place. And I'm so grateful. I'm so excited to get your book and read through it. And I know my wife's going to love it too. My wife actually now works in the school where my son went to. So she's in the pre-kindergarten classroom working with children with all ranges of spectrum. And so I think she's going to love it too. So I really appreciate what it is you do with the world to make it a better place.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you.
And hopefully we've amplified your message and even more people now know you exist and will buy your book and jump out there and find you, and everything just gets better.
Everything. Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.
Thanks. You as well, Donna. Thanks for being on the show with us.
Okay. My pleasure.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Woo.
Day 4.
I love it.
Day 4.
You just never know what's coming, do you?
No.
I just love
it. Like the tears, the yawning.
Yeah.
I got some stuff to process now.
Well, and it was so amazing. Like listening to Donna, I was like, wow, this is really neat. This is pretty cool. And it wasn't, and then I was like, okay, I got to find her website. I was going through some structure of the day. I need to find the website so I can properly link it. So I'm like, wait, autism, wait, what? And it added another layer to it.
Yeah.
I just love the voyage of discovery with meeting such amazing people. And we've had a phenomenal, we went all the way to Singapore today. I'm pretty excited about that.
Oh, that's how I could travel the world.
Yeah, I know.
Just interview people from all the countries and places that I want to visit and then get them to send me photos.
Right.
I'll be like, send me some amazing photos of where you live. Some of your favorite things.
Well, if I'm ever in Singapore, I know somebody.
If you're ever in Singapore.
It could happen.
I just won't go anywhere with her son. I'll just stay indoors, hide in the shade.
Well, all right then. I'm going into the sun, but I don't have red hair either, so I have no hair. So.
No.
It has been another phenomenal day. I can hardly believe that it's Thursday. We have one more amazing day coming.
One more day with you live, and then one more week with you for the 21-day nutrition reset.
Yes. I love that you're doing my 21-day nutrition reset. And I really love you posted some of the non-scale victories you've been having, which makes my heart swell. I love that. So it's an honor to work with people like all of our speakers. And I know you feel the same when you in your world switch people on and help them realize their greatness.
One of my favorite things, we had kind of touched on this today. My daughter's playing games with her friends. She must have killed one because she's like,
video games. She didn't kill a
video
friend.
games. Yes, video games. We were talking about why we love to speak or why we love to write. One of my favorite things about speaking on a live stage is when I get to see the faces of the audience where they go blank just for a moment and they go silent and they're like, and then you can see the change happen. Oh, there's a few speakers who get kind of nervous when they're silent for a few seconds. But like the 3-second silence is my favorite because you're like, I am watching you think right now.
Yeah.
I am watching your mind put those puzzle pieces together. And then that's the moment of transformation for me. It's such a beautiful thing. Beautiful.
It's one of the things I love about working with Corey Poirier is it's really given me permission to light up the world. It's given me permission to share my gifts.
I've watched
And
you light up more and more.
I'm so grateful for this chance to be host with you, Laura, 3 times a year for a full 5 wonderful days. It's fantastic. And I'm really grateful for everybody that's out there listening to this on the replay or live. And I can't wait to do this again tomorrow.
See you tomorrow for day 4.
All right. Let's wrap it up with bLU Talks Amplify Your Message. I hope to see you all again tomorrow, and I hope you've enjoyed. And if you have any comments or whatever, just fire them away, and we will always do our best to serve you.
Do, 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 do.